be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debtors, we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'ashram Atazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'ad, Yahayab, Lakad, Alahayim, Akarib, Alapanyat, La'ad, Daishad, Lakad, Hasab, Wala'ad, Daibadam, La'ad, Balakwaka, Shamwa, Yahawah, Alahayaka, Lashawab, Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa Amaka, La'ad, Daratazak, La'ad, Tana'at, La'ad, Daganab, La'ad, Dainad, Shakur, La'ad, Dachamat, Ko, Asharat, Lara'ika, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or in the likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Yeshua, please be seated. Barakathe Yahweh by Shemi Hawashai, Asharan, Tananawa, Pari Agap, and Puada Haman. La Yahweh by Shemi Hawashai, Ath Yashar. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Amadwa, Panua Yerushalayim, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakathe Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Abiyar, Wanawa'eh, Aliyawan, Malak, Shamayim, Warataza, Wakab, Dabaryam, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawe, Arawanawe, Ahabnawe, Apale, Yawaitaza, Yahawashai, Zakarnawa Yahweh Bartazawan Ainka Yash'ala Izarnawa Bana Wasap Yash'ala Oh Nanawa Yum Yum Maita Kayawam Yum Makwadam Baba Kushay Shalak Mike Allah Watazwadak Alahayim La Maganawa Raparnawa Washamag Alnawa Bakwo Shalak Haruka Shal Yahweh Shai Lanawa Alamadnawa Rabiam Kakama Tabawana Wada Ike Shal the Barka Basham Yahweh the water them yet why will Amen. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, a wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Natan Lanawa, HaThorah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Natan Lanawa, Awar, Lara Awak. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Natan Lanawa, Karan, Hayo, La Korah, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherat, Natan Lanawa, Hasheman, Zayef, Lamashak, Yasha'ala, Yeshabwa. You see that? Okay, so Shalom Yasharella. All right, so Shalom, all Yasharella is here in Philly with us. Shalom, everybody watching us on live stream, and shalom, everybody listening in on teleconference. Welcome to High Yasharella Kanas, or the Congregation of Israel, where we teach that the descendants of slaves, as well as the indigenous peoples, found mainly North Central South America and the Caribbean, make up the 12 tribes of Israel, once lost, now found. And that we as a people fall into a lower state politically, economically, and religiously because we broke the laws of God, found the Bible given to us by Moses, and that we come out of this lower state that we fall into by turning back to these commandments we broke by following Jesus Christ as our example, right? A verse I can read to sum this up would be in the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 1. In verse 17, which reads, "For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ," or in the Hebrew, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Once again, St. John chapter 1, verse 17. And also, I'll read this in 1 Peter chapter 2. First Peter chapter 2, 21 and 22, where it reads, once again, 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 21. It reads, "For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps." Then it mentions who did no sin, which read in 1 John 3 and 4 is the transgression of the law, commandments. Neither was guile found in his mouth. Right? When Christ spoke, he meant what he said and said what he meant. All right? And as our particular branch of Christ does, we go through a regular Sabbath service on the Sabbath mornings as we keep the Sabbath according to the law to the best of our ability from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And we go through a regular Sabbath service. Our reading today is going to be back in the Old Testament, 2 Kings chapters 15 and 16. Once again, 2 Kings chapters 15 and 16 are going to be our readings for today. My name is Nabia Zarabal. I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of going through the Sabbath service with you guys today. Just write down for your notes that according to the Gregorian calendar, it would be 24th of August, 2024. But then according to our Hebrew calendar, it's going to be the fifth month. If you guys remember, we kept the new moon on the Saturday night, the 3rd. So if you count down from then, it will put us in the 21st day of the month. We go back to when we counted when we kept the new moon, right? So the 5th month and the 21st day. Okay, so let's get into 2 Kings. Let's start from chapter 15. Remember, as we're reading, as we're going to read today, we're pretty much getting into the line of kings from the north and the south, or the northern and the southern kingdoms. As we're going to read about today, we're going to get to the time of the end, or the fall, as we see in the title of the video, of the northern kingdom, reading about the last kings that reigned in the northern kingdom, leading up to when the Assyrians would take half of our nation in captivity. Well, let me say 10 of our 12 tribes, even though we were split in half, we would say the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. But when the northern kingdom would eventually be taken into captivity. So we're going to be reading about the last couple kings before that would take place. Remember, we're going to go through this again in Chronicles as well. We'll pull a couple of verses from Chronicles, but remember, we'll leave that until when we actually get there, and then probably go back to Kings and maybe do some cross comparisons to where one might give certain details, Chronicles might give other details. But it's always good to read them together. You kind of compare and contrast. Similar to what we do, like when we read the Gospels, you'll read a certain history in Matthew's, you might compare with, say, in Luke or in John. And remember this too, I was using the Zondervan as a reference. You look up the word prophet, you'll find this chart here that is actually very helpful. This is prophet in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. And you see here, this is on page 477. It's got this handy chart that pretty much goes into the reign of kings and the prophets that prophesied around the same times as those reigns. We're going to read about a couple different kings, since they're going to have short-lived reigns, unfortunately, especially on the north side. But where it goes into where it says the fall of the northern kingdom, we're going to read about the last couple kings in that lineup. Not sure if that's kind of fuzzy. Let's see, it's a little crisper if I bring it a bit closer. Yeah, so like you see there from Jeroboam second on down on the Northern Kingdom side. Like I said, feel free to pause that video if you want to look at that list a bit closer. And then also too, I'll post the link in the chat. But as far as the Bible Atlas, we'll share a couple screenshots from that as well. That's this link I'm going to post here in the chat. But this you can actually look at and find on this website. Some of you might have Bible atlases already. It's one of our 7 key tools we always want to have and we always want to use as a resource, especially when we read. The Bible Atlas being an interesting one in that it allows us to pretty much visualize not just what we read, but then to be able to see the locations when certain events were taking place and see how borders will change as nations rise and fall according to the Most High's prophecy. So when you go to that link and you go to the 66th slide here, which is on page 104, what you see here, and we'll touch on this when we get close to the end of chapter 15, this particular map depicts the Assyrian Empire under this Tiglath-Pileser III, and this green arrow is pretty much showing the directions of this ruler's conquest, how they went eastward, but also how they went westward from where their location was, going down into Israel, which you see here in this map as it zooms in. And we'll touch on that as we get to the end of this chapter as far as these particular events. And there's a couple other maps we'll touch on too as we go further down. But in this chapter, we're going to touch on these particular events depicted here. So 2 Kings chapter 15 and verse 1, which as we read down, you could link this with 2 Chronicles. Second Chronicles chapter 26, from 3 down to about 23, as a cross reference as far as the particular events we're going to be reading about in this chapter 15.
You say Second Chronicles what?
Chapter 26.
What verses? No, yeah, what verses?
3 to 23 in particular, but the whole chapter you'll see is going to touch on this chapter. But as far as we're about to read, 3 to 23 of 2 Chronicles 26. And another thing too, because we might get mixed up too when we read this compared to we read in 2 Chronicles 26. You'll see in some middle captions of Bibles, this Azariah, son of Amaziah, is the same as the Uzziah. Sometimes what you'll see when you compare the King versus Chronicles, sometimes the spellings of names might be different, or they might refer to a surname one place versus another. But just to know that they're talking about the same figure, in case there's any confusion there. So 2 Kings 15 and 1, it reads, in the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, when I showed that map to you guys earlier, that picture from the Zondervan showing the different kings from the north and the south, this is Jeroboam II, not to be confused with Jeroboam I, who will be referenced in a couple cases here, like we read last time we were in Kings, who refers back to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, referring back to that horrible act that he set up, numerous acts, but especially when we set up as far as the golden calves being set up to be worshipped instead of going down to Jerusalem to worship, right? Not so bright idea, but we see one that the scriptures won't let up on as they shouldn't. So this is a different Jeroboam. This is Jeroboam the second, same name but a different figure much later. So in the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, began Azariah, son of Amaziah, king of Judah, to reign. It says 16 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 250 years in Jerusalem. So he had a pretty long reign, right, with 50 years. It says, and his mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. Then it says in verse 3, here comes the drum roll, as we always do. Anytime we could read about a new king, we always get that famous sentence, and he did that which was, right? So it says for him in verse 3, he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Whew, right? About to sweat off our brow. Okay, because we know when it comes to pound, north and south altogether, we know the kings of the north and south ended up failing in the end. At least in the south, we had a couple that we could, look to and say, okay, well, this king man that had been perfect his whole life, he's holy and solely fought the Lord his God. He didn't go after other gods. But it says he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, or Yahweh, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. Then it says in verse 4, which is the unfortunate piece, save that the high places were not removed. The people sacrificed and burnt incense still on the high places, right? So this, unfortunately, is going to be, I think, to tarnish his record to where he's not mentioned in that group. But we had mentioned it last time, and where it talks about in Ecclesiastes 49, right, where it mentions the three kings that wholly fought the Lord their God, right? Which I'll reference again is Ecclesiasticus chapter 49.
I sent you an email too.
In verse 4, yeah, kind of saw it pop up.
That has the chart for the prophets and kings and years and everything.
Should I share it with the chat?
Yeah, you could. It's a PDF of it. You could have brought it up on the yeah.
Okay. Nice. So the Kahan just shares with me. Let me see if I can add this real quick.
I sent you the link if you need the link. I think it's just a file. I don't know how you do pictures.
Oh, I was going to do it off the HD. But
While you're doing that, I could read Ecclesiastes 49.
oh yeah, sure, if you could.
Right. So this is Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 49 and verse 4. And it reads, it says, all except David and Ezekias, which is Hezekias, and Josias were defective, for they forsook the law of the Most High. Even the kings of Judah failed. Right. So that's Ecclesiasticus chapter 49 and verse 4. So these three kings, King David, King Hezekiah, and King Josias, were viewed as righteous kings of the southern kingdom at their death, right? You have some that started off good, that did some good works, but then in the end, as it says, they were defective, meaning their hearts turned, right? I think Khan brought this up before. Even King Solomon was one of the wisest kings in that region of all, right? Had a time of peace, right? The Most High gave him the spirit to go and judge the nations, the nation of Israel. And then towards the latter end of his days, he defected because he allowed his wives to turn his heart to go and start setting up groves and altars and worshiping their gods. So even though he did great things during the time when he was alive as king, towards the latter end, he defected. Only these three, the Most High has it in the scriptures, that did not defect.
Not a pretty good track record when we look at it.
Second,
It's not a pretty good track record when we look at it. It's only 3 out of how many kings that we had?
right?
You know, we look through that whole list that you just sent them. You know, even after the split, you know, only 2 kings were the king. Well, 2.5 kings were kings of the United Kingdom. But when you look at that entire kingdom of different kings in Judah, only 3 were righteous. It's not a good track record. Like you said, some of them started off good and then ultimately fell off. But for the most part, it's not a good track record. But we were warned about that. You know, we were warned about that in
The link to.
what is it, 1 Samuel, where the Lord told us that the kings would take advantage of the people and start to, you know, do what he wanted as opposed to what was right, what was required of them. Even though there were guidelines and laws regarding the kings, for the most part, we were told, hey, listen, the kings are gonna take advantage of you, and they're not gonna
blow that up.
You know?
Into that.
That's true. Where's the link?
I just took it on my Mac. I could just zoom in on that. I don't know if it's easy on Word. There you go.
Okay. All right. I think Yarapa, you're referring to 1 Samuel chapter 8, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
1 Samuel 8. And I won't get the actual verse where we were told. Oh, 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. It says, and Samuel told all the words of Yahweh unto the people that asked of him the king. Verse 11, and he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. Verse 12, and he will appoint him captains over thousands and over 50s, captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries and to be cooks and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. Verse 15. And he will take 1/10 of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses and will put them to his work. Verse 17, he will take 1/10 of your sheep and ye shall be his servants. 18, and ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which he shall have chosen over you, and Yahweh will not hear you on that day. So we were told how the kings would operate, what their MO would be, essentially how they would behave. They will take our resources and use them for themselves. So when we read Sirach, what was that?
49 and 4.
49 and 4,
Mhm.
that only 3 were righteous and the rest were defective, it shouldn't be a surprise.
Well put, absolutely. So that was 1 Samuel chapter 8. You read from what verses again?
I started at 10 and I read down to 18.
Right. As well as Ecclesiastes 49 and 4. And as you see here being shared on the screen, I posted a link in the chat. Just from a site, it's like Visual Theology. But if you look on the right side, starting where you see Jeroboam and going down, it'll be the particular kings we're reading about today, ending where we see 722 PC, which shows when we were taken into the Assyrian captivity, at least the 10 tribes from the north. And you see the particular king that was ruling at that time, which was this Hosea. You see the years as well. So just another version of what I showed you guys in the Zonovan Bible Dictionary. So right now we're at this time frame that we see here, where you see Uzziah. I know we can't really hide the words, but it's kind of in the middle of the page. But where you see Uzziah on the left, where it says 2 Kings 15, 1-7. And when it says Jeroboam II, which is 2 Kings 14, 23-29, which we read about 3 weeks ago. That's kind of the time frame that we're in right now as far as what we're currently reading. And just like in the Zondervan, you see here in the middle, it mentions the prophets that were contemporaries with these same kings. So they prophesied during the reign of these certain kings. And folks who want to, make fun of the Bible and things like that and say, oh, the Bible's a bunch of, fairy tales, or the Bible's completely metaphoric, that couldn't be further from the truth, as we can go into the primary sources from other kingdoms, like the Babylonians, like the Assyrians, right? Like the Cyrus Cylinder, the Nebuchadnezzar Chronicle, and different primary sources like that. We can go in those things and see those same events that you see in the Kings and Chronicles of the Bible being described in the same fashion there as well, even being depicted in drawings or etchings on the wall. So if you don't want to believe the Bible, will you believe those primary sources, right? Do you believe in archaeology, records, right? Because how else can we know anything without, going into records and data, things that, past empires tracked. So what we realize, when we come into the truth, we can go into history to back these things up. Even the miracles of the Bible is that it's not so much about what they claim, which is, I can't prove it, with my senses, I don't believe it. What we're really dealing with oftentimes, people want to blaspheme or speak against the Bible. You're just dealing with the heart of unbelief. Because even you can show proof about the truth of the Bible, prophecies, and current events. We had that spirit of the heart of unbelief back then, just like we do now. Yet and still, we prove the scriptures and show that our faith is not just blind faith, right? But our faith is based on actual evidence, actual events. But now in 2 Kings 15 again, we read the first 4 verses, right? And we had some commentary on that he saved or allowed the high places to remain, even though he himself served the Lord. He permitted the people to still serve in the high places. So the Most High is looking for that from a ruler to say, okay, not only are you going to do it, but are you going to make sure that the people don't do it, right? That being the within the rights and power of the king. So in verse 5 it says, and Yahweh smote the king so that he was a leper unto the day of his death, right? Which, when we read this history, right, and we'll probably get this in 2 Chronicles. We won't go into the whole 2 Chronicles, but we'll get this part in particular. It says, the Lord smote the king so that he was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house. It says, and Jotham, the king's son, was over the house judging the people of the land, right? It says in the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Azariah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David, and Jotham his son reigned in his stead. So let's get that particular detail that goes into how and why he became a leper, to link with verse 5. So like I mentioned earlier, I gave you the overview, 2 Chronicles 26. But now let's get 2 Chronicles 26. And we're going to start from verse 20. Second Chronicles chapter 26. Actually, I'll go up a little bit higher. I'll go to verse 16, just so we're not totally clueless. So now, 2 Chronicles 26 and verse 16, it reads, but when he was strong, right? So let's go into King Uzziah when you read above, right? Because above this, it goes into how he was victorious in certain battles, right? It says, when he was strong, it says his heart was lifted up to his destruction, It says, for he transgressed against the Lord his God, or Yahweh's power, and went into the temple of Yahweh to burn incense upon the altar of incense. Right? So in his victory, the Most High blessed him with, it says that what? His heart became lifted up. Right? Which can happen to any of us, even of a king. We know it definitely happened with the nations, but it definitely happened to Israel, where we should learn that lesson to not fall into a similar trap. Because what he's about to do now, we're going to see the priest that was there at that time of the house of Aaron is going to warn him and say, hold on now, king, right? It's not for the house of David to come and to deal with matters of the house of Aaron, right? These are separate offices, right? Don't do this folly. We're going to read about him warning him to not do this. He says in verse 17, and Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of Yahweh. They were valiant men. 80, right? How much is a score? Anybody? 20. So we know our multiplication tables, right? 20 times 4 meaning 80 altogether, right? So many priests that were with him, they were valiant, it says. It says, and we withstood Uzziah the king and said unto him, it appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah. Remember, this is the Azariah that we read about in 2 Kings 16. Don't get twisted up by the names. It says, it appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto Yahweh, but to the priests, the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for thou hast trespassed. Now this shall be for thine honor from Yahweh power. Right? So we were reading this earlier before we got started with the service. I mean, it's from the brothers that are here now. We're reading about, don't do things above thy strength, right? And that which is commanded upon thee, think thereupon with reverence, right? To where in all our efforts to want to do right by God, right? The key idea is to what? Do it in the spirit. Do it in the spirit of obedience, to where you want to go so far to where you're doing things that go beyond what the Most High instructed, right? You don't want to be like it talks about, like Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes, over righteous, right? We want to do a good thing, but then you're so zealous and you're trying to do good works for God that you go outside the guidelines that he established, right? As we see King Uzziah dealing here, and as we see in this Azariah, the priest, warning him to not do so. It says at that last precept, neither shall it be for thine honor from Yahweh power. So now let's see if Uzziah took heed to this warning. Then Uzziah was wroth and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was wroth with the priest, because remember, if we're not familiar, this goes back to the tabernacle of the congregation. Remember, the furthest point that any Israel, even in from the line of kings, which that family was there, but David wasn't around yet. But going back to when it was Moses and Aaron, his sons, the furthest point that anybody that wasn't at the house of Aaron could go was the altar burnt offering, right? That was shittim wood overlaid with brass. That was the furthest that any other Israelite could go. But once you got to the altar burnt offering, Aaron and the priests and his sons, the priests, they were the ones that could pretty much do the offerings on that. And as you go inside of the holy place, only they could go in. And we go into the holiest of holies inside the holy place, which is right past the altar of incense. Only the high priest would go in there once in a year when you read the law. So Moses was very specific as far as, even though you guys are, breaking the tent down and setting it up as far as Levi, even other Levites knew not to do what only Aaron could do. And even when it came to what Aaron could do, only the high priest, any generation of the sons of Aaron, could go into the most holiest of holies. So the point being, only the sons of Aaron could be in the holy place, which when you were to enter in, think about it from your mind's eye. To your right would be the table, the showbread. To your left would be the candlestick, right, that was tall. And then directly to your back, before you got to the veil that led to the holiest of holies, you had the altar of incense. So King Uzziah's got no business even in there. Only the sons of Aaron can be in there, right? So that's what they're trying to warn him of to not do. So it says in verse 19, then Uzziah was wroth and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was wroth with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of Yahweh from beside the incense altar. So Musa did a miraculous thing to where he struck him with leprosy right then and there, right? As he had the incense in his hand. Because he saw the intent in which he was trying to do. It says, and Azariah the chief priest and all the priests looked upon him, behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from thence. Yeah, himself hasted also to go out because Yahweh had smitten him. So they thrust him out, and it says even he hasted to get out because even he realized in the moment, yeah, I was trying to be, zealous, but in a disobedient way. Now him even realizing he has leprosy, he knows the law. Oh, I shouldn't even be in here, let alone the fact that I got leprosy. I shouldn't even be around anything that's holy, right? That will even include the altar burnt offering that was outside the holy place, right? Because I probably didn't make that connection. So the tabernacle was laid out the same way that the temple was. The temple was built on a grander scale, but the positioning of items were pretty much in the same place as far as the altar burnt offering being out front, candlestick and the table of showbread being the first things you see when you go into the holy place of the temple, as well as the tabernacle, the altar of incense being towards the back of the holy place. So that layout was the same, even with the temple. But like we read, Most High smote him with leprosy as far as King Uzziah. So even when he realized he had leprosy himself, even he took haste to get out of there because, only things that are holy can go in there. Once you have leprosy, you're unclean.
So I was thinking of, even on a smaller scale, you mentioned how even when you're trying to be zealous for the Most High, sometimes you can get yourself caught up in a scenario because there was a situation in the wilderness where the Levites were carrying the ark, and they were instructed not to touch it. And I think they were carrying it crooked, and it almost fell over. And one of the brothers tried to catch it, stop it from falling, and he died right on the spot.
Right.
That's a situation where this is probably just a reflex to him, like, you see something falling, about to catch it, and try to catch it. But this time he was specifically told not to, just let it drop, and it cost him his life. Just to show you how serious the Most High takes these acts and his holy vessels. The king here is trying to step out of office and try to do something that he was commanded not to do, or something that was preserved in its proper office, and yet you see how the Most High, not respecting the persons, punished him or judged him on the spot.
Yeah, there's two things. Not only was he, because he had leprosy, was he not to be in the temple? You can't be around nobody.
You're king.
Yeah, you got to be isolated from everybody once that happens to you. So him running out, of course, definitely the temple, but then now he has to go find a place of his own. And to your point, how the Most High is very particular about the keeping of his law on his will, that he can judge you in a harsh manner. You bring it up to today's time. Some people don't realize why certain things happen to them because of their actions, because they're not chasing it back to the law, or they're being inconsiderate of the Most High's will, and they're going out just doing their own thing like he was doing, and then a judgment befalls them, and it's like, yo, what happened? Well, you were ignorant that you weren't supposed to do that,
right? And
now you're leaving doubt and question everybody else, like, yo, why he get taken out like that? Why he go so fast that way? Why would God do that? Well, if you understand the testimony of the Most High in the scriptures, then enlightens you as to say, oh, he probably was doing something that he wasn't supposed to do based on this law, or he was in a place where he should not have been based on this law, and these are those judgments, right? We used to see a lot of that during like so-called holidays, Halloween, and all of a sudden something bad happens to somebody. Like, what was you doing there? You shouldn't have been out there doing that anyway. So now that judgment befalls a person, and you can just say the Most High rain judgment.
And just to land me back over what you're saying, he's the king. The
right.
king is stepping out of office.
Yeah.
So before all the people, the king just got judged.
Right.
Before the priests, and he ran out of the temple. And you can probably imagine that there are people watching him like, well, the king has leprosy. Like, the Most High's not playing about his testimony.
Right. Most High is no respect of persons, no respect of nations.
Right.
Absolutely. If you could, Yarapa, 2 Samuel's chapter 6, verses 6 to 11.
2 Samuel chapter 6.
Let's read that real quick, just to connect what we're reading about here in 2 Kings 15 as well as 2 Chronicles 26. You're mentioning about the brother Uzzah.
This is the book of 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 6. And when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand into the ark of the Most High and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Uzzah, and the Most High smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of Yahweh. And David was displeased, because Yahweh had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Peruzah to this day. And David was afraid of Yahweh that day, and said, how shall the ark of Yahweh come to me? So David would not remove the ark of Yahweh unto him into the city of David, but David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of Yahweh continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and Yahweh blessed Obed-Edom and all his household.
Okay. So you see that matter that you were touching on earlier. We read the scripture that kind of went into that detail behind what went down and why. And we look at names of people and places, right? It tells a story, right? Him naming that place Perez Uzzah is interesting, right? Because that Perez comes from Faraz. Like you'll see that name come up before in the line of Judah, right? We read about the twins that Judah had with his daughter-in-law Tamar after that situation, where it tells you that the one that was supposed to be born second broke forth to became the firstborn, right? And, talk about tie the thread around one child versus the other. He was given that name Faraz, which means breach. So you see that name come back again, but in a different regard, as far as him making a breach, as far as him doing something that he wasn't supposed to do, to grab the Ark of the Covenant, which was only for the priests to handle. Hence the name of the place, Perez Uzzah, or the breach of Uzzah. You go back to Genesis 38, you read about Judah's 2 children he had with Tamar, one of them being named Faraz, which is the same word Perez in Hebrew, which means breach. And that's one of the topics you like, right? So I was checking out some of the classes you did it going into Leah and Rachel, right? And those dynamics as far as them having the kids, how they named them and things like that. 2 Samuel 6 and 11 links with 1 Chronicles 13. We're not going to read it, but just write it down. But 1 Chronicles chapter 13, and I'll give you the verses. From verse 9 down to 14. So 1 Chronicles 13, 9 and 14 parallel 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 6 to 11. So in the case of King Uzziah, he's been smitten with leprosy. In the case of Uzzah of Judah, like he touched on, like we read, he was just killed on the spot for touching the Ark of the Covenant. And then we won't go into it here, but just the fact that Obed-Edom and all his household being blessed, that's significant too, as far as the Most High. He's everywhere, right? But it shows how his presence is especially felt when it comes to the things he deems holy or his holy vessels, right? But ultimately, he wanted us to be those righteous vessels unto him, right? He wanted his tabernacle to dwell amongst us as a people, to where it wouldn't just become like a carnal thing where it's like, oh, we can only do this in this holy place of Jerusalem, or we can only do this inside of the holy temple. Yeah, those things were holy, but he wanted those things to be in our minds to say to ourselves, yeah, we should be holy, just like these holy vessels are holy, just like this land is holy, right? Just like this ground is sacred. We're supposed to be God's sacred people, and we should carry ourselves as such. And let's read on back in 2 Chronicles 26, before we go back to 2 Kings, concerning King Uzziah, also King Azariah, depending on where you read. So back in 2 Chronicles 26, I'm in verse 20. I started from 16, now I'm in 20. It reads, and Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from thence. Yeah, himself hasted also to go out, because Yahweh had smitten him. Right? And it says in 21, and Uzziah the king was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper. So this several house read about in Kings 2, being a place where those who were unclean could dwell, right? It says, he was cut off from the house of Yahweh. Then it reads, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. So he already had his son working in his cabinet to judge the people. So already training to take on that next role, as we're going to read, is going to be the next king after him. And then finally it says, now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, the first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, son of Amoz, write. So Isaiah, who wrote the book of Isaiah, he was a contemporary with this Uzziah, and not just him, but other kings as well. That chart we showed earlier is going to actually depicts that when you go further, where you see how Isaiah was a contemporary with a couple different kings. When you look at this chart here, and if you pause it, you could see that. Reading 1 of verse 23, it says, so Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the field of the burial which belongeth to the kings, for they said, he is a leper. It says, and Jotham his son reigned in his stead. So leprosy for the rest of your days. So you go back into the law in Leviticus, it talks about if a person becomes leprous, and the process on how to become clean from your leprosy, he wasn't even extended that opportunity. It's a good thing at least he had a son or sons to at least be successors unto him, right? Because imagine if he had done this before he had any sons to succeed him. It would have been a wrap, right, for the line of kings coming from David. Let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 15. 2 Kings chapter 15. We're going to read on in verse 8. So 2 Kings chapter 15 and verse 8 reads, in the 38th year of Azariah, king of Judah, did Zechariah, the son of Jeroboam, reign over Israel and Samaria 6 months. And we're going back to the northern kingdom as far as the kings that they had, right? So now we're talking about the son of Jeroboam II named Zechariah. Right? Not to be confused with the prophet Zechariah. He wouldn't come until sometime later. He was a contemporary with the latter kings of Judah, right before the Babylonians came to overthrow the southern kingdom. That wouldn't be until many years after this. So different Zechariah. So it says he reigned over Israel 6 months. So we went for 52 years of reigning, right? You say, okay, that's quite an extensive reign, right? 52 years versus 6 months. Let's see what the next verse says as far as he did that, which was, we get to that line and see what happened. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done. It says he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. So see, now it's referring back to Jeroboam the first when it says son of Nebat, which when we go back into 1 Kings, we read about that story as far as how he had Israel serve those golden calves set up in those two cities, one in the north of the northern kingdom and the one towards the bottom part of the northern kingdom, yet still above Jerusalem, right? It's making reference to that as far as that first Jeroboam. So you see him be referred to a lot, especially when it comes to any of the kings not serving the Most High God, but then going after idols. It'll make a reference or comparison back to him. It says in verse 10, and Shalem, the son of Jabesh, conspired against him and smote him before the people and slew him and reigned in his stead. Right? So you have this Shalem, son of Jabesh, conspire against him. We've seen this more than once with other past kings, to where if you're a wicked king, the Most High can very easily take you out sooner or later. And oftentimes he'll do it by those that are under your cabinet, those that you have command over. It says in verse 11, and the rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. This was the word of Yahweh which he spake unto Jehu, saying, thy son shall sit on the throne of Israel unto the fourth generation. And so it came to pass. So now this reference here in 15 and 12, because remember we read about Jehu's son Nimshi, who started off well, but then unfortunately toward the latter end of his reign, took a turn for the worse. Yet he still made this promise to him. Go back to chapter 10, 2 Kings. Second Kings chapter 10, we'll read 29 to 31 again. We read this before some weeks ago. 2 Kings chapter 10, 29 to 31. The 2 Kings 10 and 29, it says, howbeit from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, Jehu departed not from after them, to wit, the golden calves that were in Bethel and that were in Dan. Those are the two cities they were in, right? Bethel being, like I said, in the southern region of Israel, right? In the plot of Joshua. And then Dan, obviously being in Dan, which is towards the north, of the northern part of where the tribes were situated. So he allowed that. And Yahweh said unto Jehu, because thou hast done well in executing that which is right in mine eyes, and hast done unto the house of Ahab according to all that was in mine heart. Remember the judgment that came down upon Ahab and his wife Jezebel the Zidonian, right? Thy children of the fourth generation shall sit on the throne of Israel, right? This is in 31. But Jehu took no heed to walk in the law of Yahweh, power of Israel, with all his heart. For he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, which made Israel to sin. So the Most High is a man of his word. The Most High is merciful. But, if you carry on in a certain way, when it comes to words or deeds or both, the Most High's got to do what he's got to do. Because the Most High has to uphold his words of righteousness. Whatever he says, whatever he establishes, and the judgment that comes from either heeding to it or not has to be fulfilled. So let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 15. Now we're in verse 13. It reads, 2 Kings 15:13. Shallum, the son of Jabesh, began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah, king of Judah. So now this is before Uzziah's reign was over, right? As far as when he began to reign. So remember we read above, it says that it was 52 years, right? So this was the 39th year that he reigned, right? When this Shallum, son of Jabesh, came into power. Just so you can kind of parallel the two, because Kings and Chronicles will switch back and forth. Sometimes they'll go back and forth as far as when folks were alive and when they died. They'll tell one person's story, but then they'll tell another person's story later on, which would coexist or will be happening in tandem with another person's story. But all the years and the dates of the years, we can kind of do charts that we showed earlier so you can better visualize what's going on. It says, and he reigned a full month in Samaria. So he reigned a month. So we went from 6 months now to a month. It says, for Menahem, the son of Gadi, went up from Tirzah and came to Samaria and smote Shallum, the son of Jabesh, in Samaria, and slew him and reigned in his stead. So, talk about, it's like the seat isn't even warm, right? It's like still got the new car smell, right? As far as the throne's concerned for him. But not even a month went by, and then you had this Menahem take him out from the position. And it reads, "And the rest of the acts of Shallum and his conspiracy which he made, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel." And it says in verse 16 now, it says, "Then Menahem smote Tipsah and all that were therein, and the coast thereof, from Tirzah, because they opened not to him. Therefore he smote it, and all the women therein that were with child he ripped up." So just showing how brutal this guy was. So it's just like a rogue gallery of kings, one after the other. That it's just like, man, if one replace the other, it's like who's better, who's worse, right? But we see here we had this recorded, him doing this horrible act. When it came to it mentions this coast that weren't open, right? Because with coastlines and cities, especially on the waters, we even see that today too. Those are key areas when it comes to communication, when it comes to trade, right? So obviously, when a king takes authority, he's going to want to have those things open so that he can conduct business, conduct communications, etc. So for those cities to want to resist him, he's going to have to figure out some means to either try to parlay, figure out, okay, what can we do to work things out? Or like we read here, just go in and kill them. Like it says here, the women therein that were with child, even that he ripped up. Right? We even see when it comes to illegal activity or wicked activity then and now, even amongst thieves, there's honor, right? Right? You can see with these different, even today, you'll hear references to that when it comes to like, movies about mob activity or assassins or both, right? Where they'll throw it out there. They'll say, listen, I'm thinking about what's the one from the 90s, the guy with the hat and the glasses, the no women, no children, right? Remember we said that in the movie? No women, no children. Right? He was an assassin. It was called the Professional. Right? So that even amongst like criminal activity, you'll even hear them say, "Look, man, women and children don't get involved. If we have any issues between us, right? You'll have certain characters even within those horrible elements that'll even violate that. Like we see here with this Menahem, at least back then. As far as what he did to that city, Tirzah. But really going
real quick, it's the same thing that what's her name did to the brother in his vineyard. So yeah,
Naboth.
Yes, what's her name? Jezebel had Ahab kill that brother for his vineyard. He didn't want to give it up, and she said, "You know what? Kill him and take it." So we see the same thing. Oh, they don't want to give him the seacoast. I'm kill him and take it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good comparison, right? Going back to what was that in 2 Kings?
That's the
first Kings.
I was trying to find that. I think
it's chapter 20, maybe.
So we'll find it later.
Oh, 21. Yeah, 21.
Yes, Naboth. Just realized. Yep.
Yes, you guys can reference 1 Kings 21. Let's see.
Started 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you read down to about 16.
Okay. So 1 Kings 21, 5 down to about 16. To link with 15 and 16 of 2 Kings. So 1 Kings 21, 5 to 16. All right.
Actually, it really started verse 1, but the crux of it starts at verse 5.
Gotcha. And that's the fun part with like Kings, right? Brothers make jokes. They say, "Yeah, read from verse to this verse." Actually, start from the indentation one. Actually, the whole chapter is pretty good. Actually, the whole book is good. It's become a joke. Read the whole book of Job. You might pull one verse in Job. That's the whole chapter of Job. This whole chapter is good. Yeah, you know what? This whole book of Job is good to read, brother. Thank you. You know? Okay, so this is verse 17, back in 2 Kings chapter 15. It reads, in the 9th and 30th year of Azariah, king of Judah, remember this is Uzziah, same as Uzziah, began Menahem, the son of Gadi, or Gadai, to reign over Israel and reign 10 years in Samaria. Okay, at least he got 10 years in. But yet and still, what is saying, verse 18, he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. He departed not all his days from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. So it is again. Jeroboam, son of Nebat, right? Always remember for this horrible thing. It says in verse 19, and Pul, king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand, right? So we're going to read about this again also as we read on, as far as appeasing the enemy through a bribe of sorts, right? Here's an offering so that you don't just come and destroy us. But we know in the Most High ultimately wants you to fall, no matter what you provide to your enemy, that's going to be on the Most High to allow that to be enough or not. Because in the end, if you don't serve the Most High and put him as your first, put your trust in him completely, any alliance you try to make with other nations, it may work for a little while. It might work at the onset, but in the end, it's not going to work out because the Most High told us, according to the contract in Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, I'm going to have these nations take you out. You're going to be the tail. They're going to be the head, right? They're going to lend to you, not the other way around, if you don't follow me. And we're going to see this come up again much later. We get to the end of 2 Kings, when we get into the tail end of the southern kingdom, right? You're going to see the kings of Judah try to do the similar thing as far as try to parlay with certain kings or to get some sort of help or relief. And even the Jeremiah, who was a prophet at that time, warned him and said, it's not going to work. I'll tell you what will work, though. Shut down these idols, start serving with God. We'll still have mercy. He'll change King Nebuchadnezzar's heart, who was the king at that time of the Babylonians. Right now we're dealing with this threat pull of the Assyrians, right? And those that are around his time, we read earlier about Tiglath-Pileser when we looked at that map, which I don't think we're up to the next. We're not up to the next map yet, but we're gonna get to the next map. We get into chapter 16, but I'll share that with you guys when we get there. But it says in verse 20, and Menahem exacted the money of Israel, even all the mighty men of wealth, of each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the king of Assyria, right? So the price for marriage, right? 50 shekels. I mean, that number always sticks in my mind when I read that in Deuteronomy, right? So the king of Assyria turned back and stayed not there in the land, right? So next time, right? We'll come back for you next time, as we're going to read later on. At least he was appeased for this act. But now the thing that the wonder too is, how are Menahem and the people that, like I mentioned, the mighty men, they had to give up this silver to appease this pull of Assyria. How are they taking this, right? Like, really? Okay, yeah, things could have been worse, but I'm not happy about to give this 50 shekels to this king of Assyria. So while he's the king, you have to wonder, because we see how these kings rise and fall so quick. You have to think, man, someone or someone's could have very easily not been happy about this turn of events, them having to give this king this money of theirs, so they wouldn't come in to overthrow him. But it worked, at least for the time being. Reading on to verse 21, it says, and the rest of the acts of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Then it reads, and Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah, his son, reigned in his stead. Right? It's not going into the next king to reign on his behalf, this Pekahiah.
It's like it was funny. I was reading that he went and took, they said exacted, pretty much taxed those who had wealth. He took 50 shekels from them. Whereas today, your leaders will go and take the money from the poor and go and tax the poor to go pay off debts instead of going to the rich and wealthy, right?
Yeah, come. Or sometimes both, right? Because you'll see that then they'll do tax the rich. Remember we watched that video, was how the economic machine works by that guy Ray Dalio. It's like one of those, I guess you call them wise men of Esau. People look to today as far as like investing and things like that. He mentioned these 4 things you always want to do right before you have like an economic collapse due to inflation. And one of the ones he mentioned was, taxing the rich as far as that being a thing. But it was 4 things. One of them I remember was being like taxing the rich to then redistribute the wealth. Another one was inflation, obviously, which doesn't get us anywhere. It's just a tool, really, just to that they use to just imprison the people and to keep them indebted, right? Where you have these short and long-term debt cycles where they just kick the can down the road to where it's like, look, this faith-based religion called the U.S. dollar can't last too much longer. You see nations are already trying to back out of it to where it's leading up to an eventual crash, which people can see. They can see the logic, but then as far as when, that's where arguments kind of happen back and forth. Oh, it's going to happen this year. It's going to happen next year. It's going to happen in 2030, 2035, right? If it doesn't happen, people become, say, oh, yeah, I don't believe you because you said it was going to happen at this time, so I don't believe you, right? But, I think of it as like a snowball, right? Where a little snowball, once it starts rolling, once you have people who are in reputation as far as the world's concerned, start to make moves and go, I don't like this dollar anymore. That's when the smaller fish do what the big fish do. And that's you'll begin to see the avalanche effect. But it's definitely coming. But Most High's wisdom is timeless in that they already told us about usury and usury and what's the word I wanted? Not incest.
Exactly.
Interest, my bad. Usury, which is interest, right? As far as when and how that should be used, and how when it comes to even that Ray Dalio guy, he did this video. He showed a straight line going like this, which you call productivity growth. I said it's funny. He mentions that in his graph. That's actually what the kingdom would be, because in the kingdom we know all we're going to have is productivity growth. We won't be in these, long-term debt cycle crash anymore, like the .com bubble or the housing bubble, right? We won't see any more of these bubbles anymore. The college bubble they talk about that's coming. Like you won't see any of that anymore. It'll just be productivity growth because we're going to be dealing with commerce according to the laws of God. Just balance, just weights, just ethers, just hens, right? Only the nations will have interest charged on them, but as far as like you going to buy anything, you're going to have it, right? No other way around it. Not just a loan like they do and just kind of let it get out of control. That's all I have. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. We can look forward to. Kind of what we were talking about before we started the service today, where while the nation's going to feel it when we first come into power with Christ, it's going to get to a point where they're going to love the service because they're going to know, yeah, when we had our time in the sun, the earth was in misery. The earth was suffering. Not just the people, but even the rest of the creation. The plants and animals all suffer. But while Israel's ruling, we're going to see what? Constant progression, constant growth, physical and spiritual throughout, to where we'll get to see the beauty of the earth and how it was meant to thrive. All save for, of course, where we're at right now. It tells there's going to be a perpetual smoke. It's going to come from this land, which is going to serve as a reminder. Here lies, Babylon the Great, the greatest country men could come up with on their own without God. Look at how it turned out. Just as a reminder. It's so messed up too because, if you guys have traveled anywhere throughout the United States, it's a really beautiful land. All types of beautiful flora and fauna and different sights. And it crosses my mind all the time when I look at just like the wild parts of America, like stuff in the Midwest and going towards like where the Rockies are and like the Grand Canyon and places like that. Even here in the Northeast, like you go like certain temperate forest areas outside the city, you go, wow, this is really beautiful. Damn, so I got to go up in flames. All of it. What a shame. So I guess Gad got to enjoy it while it lasted, but then due to this sin and due to the Most High's ultimate prophecy, even this had to be taken from him. Yep. So back in 2 Kings. Back in 2 Kings. Now I'm in chapter 23. Verse 23. Chapter 15, verse 23. It says, in the 15th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekahiah, the son of Menahem, began to reign over Israel in Samaria and reigned 2 years. So we're back to short reigns again. Continues that too. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. So Jeroboam, son of Nebat, being invoked yet again. But Pekah, the son of Remaliah, a captain of his, conspired against him, which we saw this before, right? With that's how Ahab's family came into power for a little while, right? Under Omri, right? Who was named captain of the host under Baasha, if I'm not familiar, if I'm not mistaken. To where you have the captain of the host, which we see that even today, where oftentimes there's a coup in a country, right? Whether it be something that's homegrown, which sadly most coups, at least in the modern time, are not homegrown. Oftentimes were helped along by what is called them Continental International Airlines, right? Right, the farm, if you will. Oftentimes they're the ones that are hand in helping coups happen, especially here in the Americas. Oftentimes they'll try to reach out to or utilize whoever has command over the army as the one to replace the current ruler, right? So you'll see that situation a lot where the general will be the one to become the president, because if you have command over the army, the military, it automatically gives you like that. You got the a force that pretty much looks up to you, respects you, and you tell them to go. If you tell them to go, they'll go. Stop, they'll stop, right? So it's very tempting for that person in that position to say, you know what, let me just take over the whole thing, especially the person who's in charge is making a mess of things. So you'll see that in the scriptures. You see that in the modern times as well, right? Especially look at, like I said, you look throughout the modern eras, at least wars that happened after World War II, you've seen that. Even before, but especially after, where they'll overthrow a person and then they'll install the general in place of them. Not all the time, but like I said, the farm is usually involved with that, right? Those guys that you find as you get off 95 and take a stop at Langley, you'll find those guys there. All the trouble they cause. But 2 Kings 15. Here we go. Remaliah, a captain of his, conspired against him and smote him in Samaria, in the palace of the king's house, with Argob and Ariah, and with him 50 men of the Gileadites, right? Which Gilead being in Manasseh, right? As far as where that's situated in the land. It says, and he killed him and reigned in his room. It says, and the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel, right? So now we see him now out of the picture. But now, reading on, it says, in the 52nd year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekah, the son of Remaliah, began to reign over Israel and Samaria and reigned 20 years. So we got a 20-year reign after he overthrew him, his captain, or one of his captains. It says, And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. So, wore this evil track record in the north. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, was that map I was showing you guys earlier when we first started, and took Ijon and Abel Beth Maacah and Genoa and Kadesh and Hazor and Gilead and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. So we're going to see this when we read on in Kings about how when we're taken over, it won't just necessarily happen just one sitting. It'll happen sometimes during different reigns, or you'll have different portions of our people being taken captive before the whole kingdom is just totally taken out. So this wouldn't be the final death blow per se, but this will be a serious blow, kind of like what we saw when we read the beginning of Daniel. You had certain of us taken captive at that time, but it was before the 586 BC time frame. So this took place before the 722 BC time frame, where the Northern Kingdom is totally overthrown. So oftentimes what happened in doses to where the Most High in His mercy, would give us a chance to try to get things right. And depending on the choices of the kings that were reign afterwards, that would either, change for the better or for the worse. And in both cases, for our kingdom, or for both of our kingdoms, as far as Israel is concerned, as far as Judah is concerned, it would be for the worse. So I'll share that again on the screen so that you guys can see it. Number 66. So we're reading here in chapter 15. This map actually depicts this Tiglath-Pileser and where he traveled to as far as the cities he took over with these green arrows as he came down into the land. And we see some of those same cities that are mentioned here and where they're situated at. You see, you got Genoa, you got Hazor, Kadesh, right? You see these other cities that are in that lineup. In this little smaller map right here. So just follow that green arrow as it goes down. All right. Oh, this whole time.
I couldn't see if we had it.
So lucky folks watching online, I wasn't sharing. I thought we were sharing the whole time. So I was saying, if you see those green arrows coming down this smaller map, they depict this Tiglath-Pileser as far as the cities they overthrew. And if you zoom in, you can see those cities, especially those green arrows are at. That are mentioned in those scriptures that we just read. I zoom in a little bit more. Well, this might be a little fuzzy, but you see those same cities: Kadesh, Hazor, Genoa.
Is that Megiddo? I see.
Yes, it is. You see Megiddo in that lineup. It's not mentioned here in the scriptures, but I know my brother probably checks out geography and a little history about Megiddo. That being a significant city, a lot of things have happened there in the past, and a certain key event that's going to take place there in the future, right? Where the infamous Armageddon gets its namesake, right? Which Armageddon translated means the veil of Megiddo. So this region is going to be very significant. Not only during the times of kings, we read about, I think, a couple Sabbaths back, but when it comes to that final battle between Babylon the Great and between Gog and Magog. Okay. So now 2 Kings 15 in verse 30, it reads, and Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and smote him, and slew him, and reigned in his stead in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. So now it's talking about Jotham, who's going to be the next king in the south of the southern kingdom. But it says in that 20th year, that's when this Hoshea came on the scene. Now, this Hoshea is the same king that would pretty much be the last king that would reign in the northern kingdom, right? when you read on in the future. It says, and the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. It says in the second year of Pekah, so not going back to Pekah, the son of Remaliah, before Oshea came to power, it says, King of Israel began Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, to reign. So now it's going to talk about what was going on in the south during Jotham's reign. Right? So it's going back in time again to going to the beginning of Jotham when he took power after Uzziah was buried, the one that was leprous all those years. It says in verse 33, because remember, Jotham was set up as like a judge during King Uzziah's reign before he was smitten with leprosy. Verse 33, 5 and 20 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. So he reigned for 16 years. It says, and his mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. It says in verse 34, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Oh, thank goodness. He did according to all that his father Uzziah had done, right? We read that by itself, you go, okay, I'm guessing it's talking about the good things that he did, right? But then it says in 35, howbeit the high places were not removed, the people sacrificed and burnt incense still in the high places. It says he built the higher gate of the house of Yahweh. Then it says, now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah? So when you go into Jotham's reign, right? That was in Second Chronicles. It's actually chapter 27. It's a pretty short chapter, but you could just write down to link with 15 and 36. Write down Second Chronicles 27, 1 to 9. I'll just read briefly, which is pretty much more or less going to touch on the same details. But now it says in Second Chronicles 27 and 1, it says, Jotham was 25 years old and began to reign. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. He did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. I'm in verse 2 now. According to all that his father Uzziah did, howbeit he entered not into the temple of Yahweh. And the people did yet corruptly, right? So he didn't go into the temple like his father did. But then it says the people did yet corruptly. Because remember, he allowed the high places to stay. Now it's going to mention that high gate that I was talking about. He built the high gate of the house of Yahweh, and on the wall of Ophel, he built much, right? So this was construction works, right, for protection. Moreover, he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and in the forest he built castles and towers, right? So he did a lot of fortification, right? And, you know, where he built these is also important too, to where when you have these outlooks, these posts, you can actually, get better perspective. You can see as far as if anybody's coming with a small host or a great. You have castles or cities that are built on high locations, right? And, the whole high ground thing, you read about that all the time in, military strategy. When you have a high ground position, you have the advantage over the enemy, right? Not to quote the you guys to watch the Star Wars movies, the Revenge of the Sith. They kind of made it into a meme where you get the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin facing off with each other. He tells her, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground," right? So you hear that a lot. When you read in history, you see in current events. When we talk about having certain positions over your enemy, you can see more. You have a better vantage point when you're elevated. And we know when it comes to Esau, our brother, the wicked of the earth, they love to have the ultimate high ground, especially when it comes to their technology, right? Having their Air Force at play, having their satellites in play. When it comes to, exalting himself as the eagle, like it tells Obadiah. They like to be able to see before anyone else can see, to know before anyone else can know, before they make their attacks. But reading on, it says, In verse 5, he fought also with the king of the Ammonites, so-called Japanese, and prevailed against them. And the children of Ammon gave him the same year 100 talents of silver, and 10,000 measures of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. So much did the children of Ammon pay unto him both the second year and the third. So Jotham became mighty because he prepared his ways before Yahweh his power. Right? And then it finally reads, now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, which we were just reading. He was 25 years old and began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Ahaz, his son, reigned his stead. Right? So this excerpt here in Chronicles going into a little bit more detail about his success, not only his construction projects, but also his success in battle against the children of Ammon, so-called Japanese, we will call them today, right? But back in 2 Kings 15, let's read on. It says, that the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In those days, the Lord, or Yahweh, began to send against Judah Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, right? So now we're not only at odds with the king of Syria, not to be confused with the Assyrians, the children of Asher, but Syria, the children of Aram, but also Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of the northern kingdom. So now we're fighting with our own people that are in league with heathen nations that live close by, which was Syria, which is right next to us. It says, and Jotham slept with his fathers, and he was buried with his fathers in the city of David, his father or ancestor. And Ahaz, his son, reigned in his stead. So now before we get into chapter 16, if I add this to the stage, if I go down a little bit, this next map here, we zoom out some so it's not too small. It's number 67 or page 105 in the Bible Atlas map. It mentions or it calls it the Syro-Ephraimite War. So this red line depicts the routes of the anti-Assyrian coalition. Even pressure from Edom from the bottom, which is probably going to be underneath us, as far as Judea. It even color codes the countries too, as far as Aram, Damascus, which is pretty much the Syrians, Judah, which is purple, and Israel, which is green. And even Philistine advances. Oh boy. So we had a lot of activity going here during this war, where we got Aram coming down upon us in league with the northern kingdom to now fight against Judah in the south. So as you see being depicted here, as far as the red lines referring to Syrians linking up with Israel to then now come down to fight us down here in the south or in the southern kingdom. And you see here it depicts the different events that are taking place too, which we haven't read yet, but I'll read those now. So it mentions the king of Aram doing something down here in Elath, all the way down here at the bottom of the plot of the land of Judah. But then also we see Edom as well as Philistine getting involved with the battle as well. It says here the Edomites attack Judah and take prisoners. Philistines raid towns in Judah. You know, it's just like we'll see when it comes to like social media, when it comes to battles just of words, not just land. Sometimes both, right? Depending on, you know, what social media you're talking about, what event you're talking about, to where once somebody big comes against you, right? Or, you know, your authority or your power becomes like questioned because of some sort of situation or scandal, then you begin to see all your enemies that were just, you know, not saying anything, just kind of abiding. Now they come out in droves, right? Now they all got something to say about you. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, see, I told you about so-and-so. And it's like, oh, I just saw you last week and you were like, you know, smiling. Now you see me, you know, I got hurt. I'm down and out. I got a conflict. And everybody wants to stand up and go. And the scriptures talk about that in Ecclesiasticus, right? Where it tells you this. Let me get it real quick. Go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 12. Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 in verse 8. You can read down to 12. That's like the whole thing, but I'll read the first couple. So Ecclesiasticus 12 and 8 reads, a friend cannot be known in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. Right? I like scriptures like this. They kind of do like a reversal as far as the way it's framed. So saying a friend cannot be known in prosperity. I mean, you really can't know who your friends are when things are going well. It says, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity, meaning when you're dealing with adversity of any kind, right? If we see here when it comes to like the conflict that we had, your enemies won't be hid, meaning what? They're going to show themselves once they see you have some sort of adversity. So when they saw clearly Israel, the northern kingdom, and Aram, or the Syrians, were coming against Judah, we see now Philistines and the Edomites say, "Oh, let's join in, right? Let's join in the festivities." Now that they have this adversity, and it says in verse 9, "In the prosperity of a man, enemies will be grieved." Right? So like we say today, people talk about, they do like a thing on social media. If they're doing like a stream, they'll say, "Hi, haters. Hello to all my haters out there," right? You see people, probably in the chat or in the comments, and you're like, "Man, so-and-so ain't nothing. You ain't nobody. I know how you got that fame. I know the reason why you got so many followers." Just the stuff that happens that we see. But just shows that, even though it's a modern era, this flesh will always be the flesh, right? When it comes to jealousy, envy, desires of the flesh, these things have to change. All the technology has just been an enabler to pretty much enable either the righteousness or the wickedness that's in men. Sadly, more wickedness. It says, "In the prosperity of a man, enemies will be grieved, but in his adversity, even a friend will depart." So even those that we might have been or had friends with, it says even they'll depart when they see, okay, things are down and out, or things are rough. You lost your job, or you lost your business, or you're getting sued, or you're getting audited, or whatever might be happening to you. Everybody now wants this kind of, they don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole now, or a friend, in order to preserve themselves, they say, "Listen, man, we can talk, but we can't really be talking in the open like that, because if I'm associated with you, I'll get in trouble. I'll lose what I have." So that's what it means when it says even a friend will depart. "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." Check that out. Compares it to rusting iron, which is like a slow process, right? So you could actually compare, for folks that know a little bit of chemistry, it's pretty much what happens to us when we age, right? It's happening with, a metal. It's like you leave a bike out in the rain, and it kind of gets rained on, you see the rust collect. So that's like what happens with us when we age. It's like a slow burning, right? They call it oxidation. It's a slow process, but it'll work its way and begin to degrade even as something as strong as iron. It says in verse 11, "Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass," or like a mirror, "and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away." So he thought it was wiped clean. You take a little second look, and it's like, oh, it's a streak, or I smudged something. You look, and it's like, oh no, I didn't wipe it clear all the way, right? "Set him not by thee, lest when he had overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Now let him sit at thy right hand, lest he see to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith." So wise words from Father to Son, right? From Jesus to Sirach to Jesus, the grandson, right? To be mindful of these things, which we can look at and see. You can actually read about right now in Kings, as far as kings being taken out by other kings that were close to them, right? That fought for them, right? They were in their cabinet, et cetera, et cetera. So we might be in different times, but flesh and the temptation of flesh has been that constant, going all the way back to Adam. That's been a constant through line, even to this very day. So don't let Esau trick you into thinking, oh, because we have advancements when it comes to technology, what's that got to do with the morality, right? If you're a corrupt person, all this advancements when it comes to STEM fields and all that, it's not going to mean anything. You're going to use those things to cause more harm. But they act like technology is going to somehow change people's morality. So that was Ecclesiastes 12. I read 8 to 12. Yeah. That links with what we just read in chapter 15 and let's see. What was the last verse I read?
11.
In chapter 16?
Oh, no. You didn't read 16 yet. Second Kings?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just stopped at 15 and then you switched to the math.
Oh, right. Wow. So 2 Kings chapter 16 and verse 1, it's reason the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of Yahweh, his power, like David, his father. Right? So now we got one that did not do that which was right. It says, but he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. Yeah, and made his son to pass through the fire according to the abominations of the heathen, whom we have cast out from before the children of Israel. So we're actually on a pretty good run with the kings of the south, right? They just left the high places. Now we got this King Ahaz. Oh man, he's going full body. It says he what? Even allowed his son to pass through the fire. Now, this right here, when you go into this, letting your children pass through the fire with 16 and 3, we can link this with Leviticus. I'll get it real quick. We're not familiar with this particular practice because this goes into a certain idol that was even worshipped even back during the time of Egypt, who, when you worship them and gave to this idol, the your own children. I can't even think of that, but you think about how popular things are. You would say, looking at how you would think now, you would say, I would never do that. But if you had other nations doing it, it was something that was like a popular thing that people did to gain a certain success. Your hope is that you didn't do that before when you were here in your past life, but you never know. God forbid, but yeah. Because the most bizarre things, if they're trending, people will do them, even at the cost of their own children, right? Especially if they see or perceive that they'll gain from it. And if others have done it and they gain from it too, especially people that are in the limelight that are popular, right? It becomes the new norm, right? Oh, it's child sacrifice. Of course. Right? All the wealthy do it. But now we hear about that. We go, oh, that's crazy. That's something that they did only in ancient times. But it's like, you sure about that? Right? Because there's information that's been leaked out about certain places with Esau and other nations that are in high places that they partake in this child sacrifice as well, right? Or you'll see different exposed, like you saw exposed DVDs back in the day, and now you see it online. Different channels talk about all these celebrities, and after they got some sort of award or got or had a bunch of sales when it came to their movie release or album release. Now someone in their close to their family dies, and then you have people that come out and they say, it's a conspiracy. They say, oh yeah, notice when they got this elevation in society due to success, notice that they lost their niece or lost their uncle or lost their father or lost their sister or somebody close to them, right? Connect the dots. Now, unless you're in those circles, you can't say for sure one or the other, but as Israelites, we can say, oh, I can see that. We're not part of the inside track. We can't claim, yes, that's for sure what happened, because the Most High ultimately decides, right, for his reason. But we could see it because we know the spirit of Babylon the Great. We know the spirit of Sodom and Egypt. They were dealing with those same things. It's not surprising that Esau, as much as he likes to try to hide it, he's doing those same things to get the same level of power, following after the foolishness of those Hamite nations that were here before. trying to take all those things into account, right? Even their own people bring out certain information about this, not just from child sacrifice, like with the Bohemian Grove, right? Where they exposed that some decades ago, where they supposedly do child sacrifice out there. Right? I say supposedly because I wasn't there to witness it myself. Or you got books like The Secret Destiny of America. I haven't read it in a while, but I remember reading through it, and they were talking about certain things that America was doing behind closed doors. And one of the things they mentioned in that book was it's a Greek word, but based on the Egyptian practice called apotheosis. Right? When you go into that, it was pretty much this practice the Egyptians did, to where anytime they have a new pharaoh, they would do some ritual, right? That would pretty much invoke one of their false gods and their unclean spirits to then inhabit the pharaoh, to where he would be a pharaoh. He would be like pretty much God on earth. Where they look at pharaoh as though he was God. Kind of what you saw with 300. They kind of touched on that a little bit, where they got Xerxes walking around talking about I'm God, right? You go into that, it was like they had a similar practice, but they would do some sort of ritual where they would say he's flesh and blood, but then he would invoke some spirit to kind of overtake him, right? To where he would be like the physical act representative of God on earth, right? A counterfeit pretty much for Christ. I mean, if we look at it when it's all said and done. But the Egyptians had this process, and in that book, they say that whenever they had the presidential inauguration, was in January 22nd, where they swear on the Bible. They say you look at the Bible they're swearing on, it's like some other Bible, right? It's got some other stuff going on, and then you supposedly have some ritual somewhere in the capital that's similar to what they do in ancient Egypt. Now, if I'm not there to see it, okay, I can't say yes, that's what they're doing. Well, based on what I read in Isaiah 47 and Revelations 11, other chapters like that, going into the spirit of this country, I wouldn't put it past Esau. Just a little bit I know about the founding fathers and what they were into, I wouldn't put it past them, right? It's kind of a class in itself. This is the knowledge of wickedness, it's not wisdom. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to know your enemy and know what motivates them. But more importantly, to know what we should trust in when it comes to how we should walk and talk, because otherwise, all you do is just leave your defenses down. Before I read the verse in Leviticus, I think that's all I had.
You touched on.
So as far as the spiritual view. Yeah, so you read different books about American government and how does the powers that be and how they really took. You'll find a lot of spiritual wickedness that they're into. You'll see many authors corroborate on the same evidence. But what you'll find too is how a lot of things Esau is doing is just stuff that's been done by past empires, right? As far as stargazing and being astrologers, soothsaying, child sacrifice, like we're about to read now. You see them pretty much taking on these same practices, right? You saw how frustrated Rebecca was, right? When she was complaining to Isaac, our son is marrying these women of the land, right? These Canaanite women of the land, right? God, we're gonna have me grieve unto my grave, And Esau said, okay, I'll marry the daughters of Ishmael, to appease mom and dad. But they were like, who married these Canaanite women? We see Esau, true to form. But now Leviticus chapter 18 and 21, to go along with the 2 Kings 16 and 3. Leviticus 18 and 21 reads, thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy power. I am Yahweh. So I mentioned Bohemian Grove because according to certain research, they say there's a place on the western coast where they do these different rituals. The elite of society go there certain times of the year to do these rituals and do these plays where they cross-dress, and they supposedly offer up children as sacrifice. But they'll say, oh, it's not that. It's just it's just like a weekend getaway retreat or a week-long getaway retreat. And it's not really a child. It's just an effigy. It's just like a simulation of that. We're not actually doing that. But I don't put it past them how far they would go, and not just there either. Like I said, that's just the place we found out about. They depict it as an owl, right? You go into an ancient research, you read it, there was depicted as a bull. And you see two different depictions. You go into history. One, they got a bull where it's got its hands out like this, and there's like a fire pit or a place to set a fire underneath its hands. They'll put the child on the hands of this statue of a bull, and that would be where they would sacrifice the child. It's crazy. Other ones, it was a fire pit in this thing's stomach, and then the mouth would be open, and they would put the child in the mouth of the statue, and it would go in, kind of like the fiery furnace with the three holy children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. So you look up Molech, you'll see those two very common depictions as far as it being like a bull, or in the modern time you see when you go into the Bohemian Grove, they have pictures of this what they call the Owl of Molech, which, why would you even use that name? Just to kind of tell themselves what they're into. So you see offering children to the fire. That's what it goes back to. It goes back to this particular thing here that we just read about. So now I'll read 2 Kings chapter 16 and 3 again. You said you sent me
That picture you was talking about.
Oh, okay. So before I pull up that picture, you can link this also with write down Psalm 106. Psalms 106. I'm going to start from 33. Just going into what we did when we were coming out of Egypt in the wilderness. It reads in Psalms 106 and verse 33, because they provoked his spirit so that he spake unadvised with his lips. It says, they did not destroy the nations concerning which Yahweh commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, talking about our people, trying to follow the ways of the heathen. It says, and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. 37, yeah, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils. It says, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. And the land was polluted with blood. As you go on, it goes into the other horrible things we did. But that was Psalms 106, 33 down to 38. Let's see here. I'm going to post this link so you guys can see in the chat. And I'll share it on the screen.
That's for the Bohemian Grove.
So I post a link in the chat. I'm going to share the screen real quick. And I got the map still showing. Let me share that again. So I wonder why it doesn't let me do more than one. So kind of share this article with me.
First one. Yeah. It goes into the Bohemian Grove Jewish shop. Top of that.
So this is the San Francisco Gate. Secret Bohemian Grove sued by valets. This came out somewhat recent, last summer. There's a picture of the owl and has them gather together around it. The burning of the owl at Bohemian Grove, they unknown. And it mentions, is there anything in particular?
No, just the top, just the picture.
Okay. This article goes into detail about what happened here, but that's a picture depicting a more modern representation of this owl of Molech.
Right, and as you mentioned before, the other one, a lot of the elitists, celebrities, politicians, all that are part of this secret order participate to a certain degree at either this location or other rituals and customs that are scattered across the world, not even just the United States, where they go to certain universities. They'll perform these types of rituals and things at these universities, or different lodges, or specific places like that, where they'll go and congregate. They said some of, famed presidents also go and participate in these things as well.
Here's an older picture from the 1920s. So you see them getting down even back then. So crazy this makes me think of this movie that came out that they didn't talk about it too much, but it came out like at the end of last year, right before the Oscars. This movie called Babylon. You guys remember this thing?
I didn't see it yet. I think I have. I never watched it because it was like 3 hours long, something like that.
Yeah. But it was pretty much depicting what they call like vaudeville, which was pretty much like the Hollywood in the Roaring '20s before they kind of had like a rejiggering of Hollywood, like a rebirth of Hollywood, so to speak. It kind of went into like you said earlier about guerrilla style, right? It was pretty much like guerrilla style directing back in the day, as far as people getting hurt and all types of stuff, and then all the wild parties and excess stuff that they were doing as far as like debauchery and things like that. But yeah, like I said, the movie it came out, it got some reviews, but it wasn't like some movie that they talked about a lot. But yeah, there was some wild stuff in that movie, man. But like I said, going back into the 20s, where you would think like, oh, things have got more wicked and wicked. But I think more so it's just a thing of our awareness of the wickedness. Like this wickedness, you go back into American history, it's been there, right? Sometimes it's been out more out in the open. Other times it's been more behind closed doors. It's kind of been more of an ebb and flow, like during different generations. Depending on how far you go back, it's been out there. Other times it might be kind of kept under wraps, and they'll try to push a more pure version of what America is, American society is. This picture being the Bohemian Club headquarters, right, in San Francisco, right? What's that?
Just I don't know.
Yeah, man. This is the real San Francisco treat, right? Not that rice Rona. But yeah, because this article's going into details about it. Let me see if there's any other pictures here. Yeah, there's an owl again. But the owl is definitely another symbol that Esau likes to use, kind of in conjunction with the eagle, where the owl can kind of turn its head 360 degrees, has excellent eyesight, and it can see in the dark. That's what we see, the little small owl in the back of the dollar bill. You see the owl, like Harvard's logo, right? UPenn's logo. If you go over here to UPenn, there's like an Ivy League school around here in Philly. You see they have the owl on their logos. You see them use these different images and symbols to depict, how they see themselves.
And then it crosses over to your favorite celebrities, because like Drake, he promotes the owl, and then you'll have others who also promote Horus, going back to those old Babylonian Egyptian customs from the past. Yeah. Now they take their idols or their symbols, and now they make it popular. Right. Where now you got people who are ignorant, who don't know the history behind it. They're now glamorizing it. Right, they're putting T-shirts and different things up, get tattoos of it on themselves, or the different gods, like a lot of the celebrities, Rihanna and everyone else. Oh, it's nice. I like what she did, and then you go and get the same thing tattooed or made of a culture you have no idea about. And then when things start happening to you, like, yo, why is this happening? Why am I having these dreams? Like, why are these things starting to just come into my existence now all of a sudden? I don't know why. And then later on, you find out that you had allowed these spirits and this energy to come into you because you've accepted of a philosophy and an ideology that's not of our own. That's not of us, right? And it becomes your ruin.
Let you see this happen more and more with like in books, movies, and music, where things are supposed to be good, they're always shown to be like corrupt. Even when it comes to like we know it to be wickedness, and we talk about like good wizards or like white magic, right? We know all magic is left hand, but even when it comes to the good side, they always make them like corrupt somehow. Like I see this a lot with this whole Star Wars stuff with the Jedi, all these different stories that are coming out now, these different TV shows. And they always have some sort of like corruption where it's just like, oh, the Jedi know better than the Sith, and it's just like that's clearly not the case. But they'll do a lot of like we call exaggeration when they say, oh look, the Jedi Order had to become, the Jedi Order had to fall because of X, Y, and Z. But it's like all an attempt for us to look at anything that even has some sort of like form of godliness, to look at it and say, oh, that's no good. That's no better than just the evil. To pretty much, encourage folks to go, full body evil. And, we see this a lot of times too. This isn't by accident. Why is it when it comes to heroes of these different, books, movies, and music, comic books, etc., the heroes tend to be, corny, weak, pushovers, but then the evil characters, the villains, are always, strong, dynamic, and more interesting. These things aren't by accident that they write these stories this way, right? To where we read the scriptures, we're like, yo, okay, we got David, we got Samuel, we got Samson, righteous men who kept themselves, but were killers at the same time. They weren't pushovers. Like you don't see this in the modern day era. When it comes to heroes, usually the heroes. Like what's this latest one? I was talking to Manasha about. The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a perfect example where it's just like it's supposed to be about heroes, right? But then it's like it's showing these heroes, but now what is it? Vought? Was it Vought? I think it's the name of the company in the TV show. The name of the corporation that the heroes work for. They call them the Seven altogether, almost like the 7 archangels of God. But then this lineup of heroes is like totally corrupt. They all got like different weird things going on that they're doing, and you have a couple that are trying to redeem themselves, but it's just like it's showing like this whole like corrupt version of what superheroes are supposed to be. So you see that whole image of them like uplifting the villain and then bringing down the heroes, which more or less is pretty much them making evil good and making good evil. It tells in Isaiah 5:20, woe unto them that do this, right? So whether it's directly through just passing laws that are clearly breaking the commandments, we've done classes on that as far as like zoophilia, which is pretty much bestiality being permitted in so many states, to incest marriages, right? To pedophilia, exactly, right? We even put it out there. We've been putting it out there. People look at us like we're crazy when we say, listen, you think the LGBT is crazy now, 2030s, we may not even make it to then, 2030s, expect them to normalize the pedophilia and bestiality to where you speak out against it. Oh, you're a pedophobe. Cancel your online presence, right? For where now you can't monetize your videos because you talk about, how pedophilia is wrong. Oh, you don't like bestiality? There must be something wrong with you. You're a zoophobe, right? So add it on to homophobe, pedophobe, hebophobe, zoophobe, right? That'll become new words in the lexicon. But right now, people will still, you say that, and people will say, "Oh, that'll never happen." I'll never accept, someone mess with my kids. I'll be ready to go to jail for that. It's like, okay, all right. I hope you keep that energy. I hope you keep the energy, because when the powers that be start pulling the rug from folks that want to speak out against those things still, right, and make examples out of people that are in the limelight, we'll see if you change your tune. Because those same folks in the early, around early 2000s, were the same folks saying, I would never allow homosexuality, right? Or I would never let my kids do this. But then give it some years, 10 years, 15 years, now you see those same folks are like, oh, okay, fine, my pronouns are, okay, my son or daughter, I'm allowing them to express themselves. Folks you never thought that would do that, right? So, just keep an eye, because, the same way they got folks to embrace the LGBTQIA, whatever is going to come after that. And Watch them try to do that too, because that's gonna be them embracing their full-fledged Greco-Roman lifestyle, culture, mentality. So they normalized it back then with the Greeks and the Romans, right? As far as being with animals, being with young children. Right? What was that thing we always joke about in that movie? Y'all can know, was it Gladiator? So what we have, boy or girl? Remember?
Boy, girl.
Yeah, it's just like
What's the choice?
right, or even with the if you guys remember the Alexander movie with Colin Farrell that they did, where they had the guy playing Aristotle. I forget the actor, but he says saying, you know, when men come together and you know in lust, it's a horrible thing. You know, it's something that should be rebuked. He said, but men come together in love and passion, in oneness of mind. It's a beautiful thing. Like I'm paraphrasing, but this is supposed to be Aristotle. You know, supposed to be, you know, a wise one when it comes to Esau, right? One of his ancient wise ones. You got him saying that in the movie, which is actually based in, you know, actual history. It's just like, that's your man? That's your boy? Aristotle, really? Right? Mr. Rhetoric himself? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Esau would bring on themselves when they make movies like Caligula,
Yep.
like Brokeback Mountain.
Yep. Yep.
I
forgot about that one. Forgot about that one, damn. Shout out to Heath Ledger, right? Seeing the killing field. Huh?
That was Heath Ledger.
Yeah. Him and Gyllenhaal.
So after he made that movie, then he became big after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
More or less.
Before that, but that movie kind of pulls.
Yeah.
Like they almost won a couple Oscars for that.
Of course, right? In Babylon.
This is Isaiah 5:20 to how they change their perspectives. It says Isaiah 5:20, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Right. So, like you said, at one point, this was viewed as one thing, and then after a while, they change it and make that which is right become evil.
Yeah.
That which is evil become good. Right.
I forget what Sabbath service. I think it was a Sabbath you did or a class you did, Kahan, where you kind of broke down the layers. Remember at first you were like, level one is just like, man, the heck with these homosexuals. I'm not getting down with any of that, right? Me and my people, we're not doing that. Level two, listen, y'all don't do that. That's cool. But do that over there. But as far as me and mine, keep that over there. You know, you want to do that, fine. But I'm gonna do it my way over here. I'm hetero. I'm strictly, you know what, on my side of things. Level three. Oh, okay. Well, listen, I don't want to do it, but if my family wants to do it, you know, if my son or daughter, you know, my nephews, you know, my cousins, you know, my brothers, they want to do it, that's cool, but I'm not into that. Next level, yeah, I'm not into that, but yeah, it's cool if they do that. You know, it's kind of funny, but, you know, I wouldn't do that. But, you know, it's cool. You know, they can do that if they want to do. And it's like level 5 is like, I'm kind of interested, you know, I want to try that, you know. When's the next time you guys having to get together? Okay, let me party with y'all, you know, drinking with them and, you know, put stuff in the drinks, you know, I won't go into details, but, you know, wake up the next morning, you know, like the hangover part 3. What happened? Oh, man. But it's like they just break those walls down, you know, to where you accept it more and more and more. I know, come to choir, we always talk about the, it's this guy, this Russian guy used to be a part of the KGB in Russia. Came over to the Americas, or Canada at first, and then the United States, called Yuri Bezmenov. And he did, like, you can pull up on YouTube. We did like this presentation back in the 80s and wrote a book talking about the demoralization of America. And he's saying, like, look, I see it happen already here. This is back in like the 80s. He's like, I see it happening here already. What they already did over in Russia to get people to condition their mind. He talks about how you pretty much get a child from the cradle up to adulthood, and the things you introduce them to and present to them, by the time they become adults, you've already got them, right? And then pretty much the steps that you would take to take society and pretty much derail it. But, you know, he's bringing it out in the 80s. People look at him scratching their head like, I don't know about that. It seems kind of far-fetched. He's like, listen, I lived it. They did it in my home country, and they're doing it here. And that was, like I said, back in the 80s. Now it's 2024, and it's just like, the process might have been, slowed down, but the plan has been the same. You know.
pretty much affirms the whole nature versus nurture
Yeah.
right? You introduce someone to something, especially as a child, they're more reasonable to accept it, or they're prone to accept it.
Yeah.
They accept it as normal. This is just what it is. This is how we do things. By the time they're adults, they fully immersed in it now, and now they pass that thing down to the next generation, and that's how you get that moral decay. The society reaches a certain level of decadence before it reaches a collapse,
Right.
and that's where we're at here. This present day America.
Exactly. Now say if we these things as men, or say that the same in the scriptures also. Look at our people in the wilderness, right? The generation that came out of Egypt, right? It was hard for them to clip their old ways, right? Right, y'all can. We had it better in Egypt. We had the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, right? Moses, you brought us out here to be in tents, and what is this, right? Right, to kill us. So they were held on. Their minds were already in Egypt. It was only Joshua and Caleb that were like, "Look, the hell with that. Let's go forward." And we said the Most High rewarded them because they stood the test of time, right? They had that endurance. But the kids that grew up in the wilderness, that's all they knew. It's like, whatever, what's up? Let's serve the Most High. Let's do it, right? They were the ones that were fit to now go and fight and take over Canaan. But we see even with that, like we read earlier, we still wanted to choose to follow the ways of the nations. Even the generation that didn't grow up in Egypt, first they started off all right at first, and then they got into Canaan, started looking at them and said, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that they're worshiping? What's that? Is that Molech? How's that work?" And then once a judge or a king that's like, "No, we're not doing that." Once he dies, that's when it's like, "Oh, he's dead now."
That's our ways.
It's like a fever dream, man. But yes, that's the flesh, man. It's the same flesh that our people had back then. The same flesh we got now, man. The temptation has not changed. So will we resist? That's the question. Isaiah 5:20 to where you stop? Oh, okay. Come. So now back in 2 Kings chapter 16, and thank you for bearing with us on that tangent. We went on as far as the Bohemian Grove and the Moloch, and then all the things it talked about as far as societies being demoralized, degraded into following decadent behavior. But yeah, like I said, if you didn't hear from us before, keep an eye out. Like I said, those are the next two things to be normalized. Being with animals and being with children. I mentioned pedo and heba, which I looking up on Wikipedia, I actually stumbled on hebephilia, which is pretty much the same thing, but they gave it for like age categories. I think like pedophilia is like preteen, and then like 13 to like 17, 18, right? They say that's supposed to be hebephilia.
Hebephilia right now.
Yeah, so it's just like,
different classifications of it.
So you hear those terms, just know, okay, that's what they're talking about when they say this, when they say that. But yeah, man. And it's like I can't even tell you, like, not a month or two goes by where it's like you don't pull social media and you see somebody who's like a famous on like doing streaming, whether it be like TikTok, a famous on I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. What's the purple one? Twitch streamers, or any streaming platform that has some kind of gaming. You're always hearing about guys and even girls getting in trouble with people that are underage. Like it's almost like a month don't go by where somebody that's got a big foul and that's not happening. These things, like I said, they're not by accident. These things are all just things kind of get into your minds where it's just like you see it enough. For a while you think it's bad, but then eventually it's just like, what? Maybe it's not so bad. They wear you down. They demoralize you, right? To where eventually you're just totally off your rocker.
There was one here in Philly that got caught. He got caught in a sting operation by some vigilantes. They caught him trying to message an underage girl. He's like 40-something years old.
Heavyset guy, right?
Yes.
Always wearing Eagle stuff.
Yes, him, EDP.
Yeah.
Can't tell you what it stands for, but
yeah, EDP. You say that acronym, that's like known now. You say it online, people already know what you're talking about. It's like no diddy. People say no diddy. Same thing. It's like, oh, you want to end up like him, where you watch like a video that have like little clips and always show a picture of him like looking like this.
greedy ass boy. And guess what? The Most High judged him because now he's dealing with kidney failure, and it's hitting him hard. You know, he took all his views away, all his money, and then he got hit with kidney failure. You know, on dialysis and everything, and then they caught him again trying to, go back to the same vomit. So there's some YouTuber that got caught, pedophilia sting.
You're trying to solicit underage girls. Not just girls, sometimes boys too.
Oh,
Depending on who you talk. Not him, but just it doesn't matter. They want any and everything. I think at one time at camp I even made a joke about not a joke, but I even made a reference to like Family Guy.
Oh yeah.
Brian and Lois. Like, this one episode where they're like going to this hotel, had this little night out on the town. Went to dinner, and you go to the bedroom, and Brian's talking to her like he's her husband and stuff. It's just like people look at that and go, "Oh, that's cute. That's funny."
Funny, right?
Look, Brian, he's trying to date Lois. Like, oh, that's ridiculous. But it's just like, no, that's actually suggesting something to where they want to get you to break down that thing where it's like it becomes a normal thing, And that's like even the thing they talk about too when it comes to the whole red pill movement and dating and all this. You see like all these channels popping up about that and talking about what single women do, right? And they say, buy a dog, die alone. That's what the late Kevin Samuels always said, right? That little sound effect, ruff, ruff. Buy a dog, die alone. Now people are saying, yeah, what they do with their dogs, right? To help them get through those tough times. I won't go into detail, but it's just like one thing leads to another, which leads to another. One bit of wickedness can then give rise to another piece of wickedness, and that'll add to another piece, right? It's just like it's a cascading effect, and all the while, the devil's happy because he's got more souls,
That's what scriptures say. Refer to adding sin to sin.
Yeah. What does it say in James? Every man is tempted to be drawn away in his own lust and enticed, and sin, when it conceived, to bring forth death. I'm not sure I'm phrasing it exactly right, but you guys can just write down James chapter 1. And we'll finish chapter 16. I know it's getting a little late. James chapter 1. You can start from verse 12 down to 16. There we go. James chapter 1, verse 12 down to 16. With James 1 and 12, it says, "Blessed is a man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. Oh, God made me do it. The devil made me do it," right? He's the God of this world. "But God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man." 14, "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed." Remember, the Most High never took away our choice. As tough as the temptation may be that's around us, right? Whether it be false doctrines, whether it be afflictions, lust of the flesh, we still always have the choice as far as what we're going to do about it, right? Remember Job. "Then, when lust had conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren." There it is. And then, Yarapa, I think the verse you were talking about was Ecclesiasticus. Ecclesiasticus, I think it's chapter 5 and verse 5. Is that the one you were talking about?
Adding sin to sin.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's words Isaiah 30:1.
I think that's it.
Which one? Ecclesiastes?
No.
Isaiah 31.
Yeah, Isaiah 31.
Okay.
Go to the rebellious children. Say the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take counsel of
But not of me.
Right.
I'm sure Ecclesiasticus is probably inspired by Isaiah 30.
That's Cuss.
Yeah, chapter 5, verse 5 was probably, when they wrote that, they probably had Isaiah 30 and 1 in mind. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah, that works
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That definitely works too. Yeah.
You see that echo, you know? It's funny because like stuff in Ecclesiastes will echo stuff that's in the prophets, which will echo stuff that's in the Kings and Chronicles, which will echo stuff that's in the law.
Same thing with Sirach 3:27. It says, this is Ecclesiasticus 3:27. It says, an obstinate heart shall be laden with sorrows, and the wicked man shall heap sin upon sin.
There you go. There you go.
Once you start with one, the others start to become more appealing and justified.
They're saying 12 steps, you know, talk about gateway drugs, you know,
Mhm.
take one and open the door for another one.
Gateway sins. Certainly gateway sins.
Gateway sins, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like that first step though, right? You gotta acknowledge you got a problem.
Mhm.
A lot of folks are like, wickedness, it's not wickedness. It lives my life.
Yeah.
I'm a good person. I pay my taxes. I don't murder people, right? I'm nice to my neighbors, but you're not following God's righteousness. People, Esau did it that too, confusing righteousness with niceness, right? They say, nice guy finished last. But righteous men, what? They inherit the earth. So what's the difference? Is there a Venn diagram, right? Where does niceness come in? Does it mean niceness is being nice is bad? No, not necessarily. But what does it mean to be righteous? Where does niceness come into that? And also where does being firm come into that, right? When it comes to your conviction. Because being kind, right? They make it out now, like the thing I was talking about earlier with heroes being considered weak. You know, being kind and being meek, that's looked at as being weak, right? But it's like, no, when you look at it from a righteous standpoint, those are actually essential tools, right? For salvation. And these are the things that actually save men, not destroy them. But yeah, let's go back. 2 Kings 16. Second Kings chapter 16, and I think we're in verse 5.
Mhm.
First Kings. Second Kings chapter 16 and verse 5, it says, right, because we talked about them sacrificing unto false gods and offering his son to the fire. Verse 4, I'll read it again. It says, he sacrificed and burnt incense in the high places and on hills and on every green tree. Verse 5, remember, that was the intent behind the idol worship, especially when it came to Molech. You offer your kids to Molech. Molech was supposed to bless you when it came to your crops, when it came to your vineyard, when it came to your orchard, right? Whatever you had that you would use to nourish yourself and others, right? That was like our money. Or if you husbandry as far as animals, right, or plants, the Molech was supposed to bless you if you offered to him. That was the idea. And God forbid anybody that at authority did it, that was famous at that time did it, or folks did it and then they got results, which the unclean spirits it can help you, or can make things work out for a time, so that it tempts others to say, "Oh, let me offer my kid to the fire too. Let me show my dedication, to Molech."
Or out of desperation.
You got that too, yeah. Which we know Esau loves that. Just ask Bill Gates about that. Bill Gates is a big fan of desperation in the world, right? He used that on Ham over there, especially to get them to just take the vaccines, right? That he plays around with, that haven't been, approved by the FDA, what it's supposed to. Oh yeah, that's a whole class going into that. So this is 2 Kings 16 and 5 now. It says, then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war, and he besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him, right? I mean, dude was wicked, but at least with his father Jotham, he set up all those castles right in high places. So clearly, Ahaz was able to tap into that, right? All those fortified castles and positions to kind of see them coming. But once again, the Most High is always the one that has the victory in the end. It says in verse 6, at that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria and drave the Jews from Elath. That was that that city on the bottom of the map I was showing you guys earlier. I had that map I was showing you guys. And dwelt there to this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. So now we got the southern kingdom and Assyria teamed up against the northern kingdom and Syria. So northern tribe with Aram against southern kingdom with Asher, Asshur, that Asher, being the father of the Assyrians. So what an unlikely combo, right?
Sure.
Come. So he's appealing to Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria for help. It says, and Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord, or Yahweh, and the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. So similar to what we saw before, where it says, let's tax the people, right? 50 shekels to now pay to this foreign king, like the northern tribe did to the Assyrians. Now we got the king of the south here, Ahaz, doing the same thing to appease the Assyrians, to get them on our side. Right? All the help money can buy, right?
So, and you usually see that happened at the times of the Maccabees, where the priests or certain kings will go to the house of the Lord and take the treasury or take the funds and things from out of there, the holy vessels or certain things, to give to another king. Because for the southern kingdom, we knew that was a part of our custom, where the people would not only give tenths, but they would give offerings and things to the priests for the temple, right? So that was like the storehouse. So you had not only just food and things that was given as far as part of the tenth, but you also had free will offerings of gold, silver, and everything else. So when times got hard and folks wanted to go and now use some funds to go and give to someone, they went to the temple, right? That was the first place they went to that says, hey, we're going to take this and give that away, right? which was wicked.
Treasure. Israelite treasure.
Right. As what is that in House of Dragon? Something Iron Bank.
The Iron Bank.
The Iron Bank.
Yeah, that's that version of like I said, the temple for us, and then for Esau, his Federal Reserve.
Tap into the funds real fast, and then you exact the people to get it back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
They'll raise taxes, and you get a higher rate, and they'll blow up the interest rates so that way they can pay for whatever venture they just paid for out of our own pockets.
Right.
Like we see what America is doing with Israel and what they're doing in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
We footing the bill for that as
Right.
the citizens.
Yeah.
They're raising our taxes and inflation's through the roof, so that way they can send the aid over there
For both Israel and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I forgot about them too.
So as long as the news stops talking about them, it's like out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, it's still going on.
And it's funny, I was looking at this on the way down here. I think Israel has gotten about, since 1940, I think we've given them at least $15 billion in aid, or maybe 100. It was some outrageous number, which is the most that any country has given to any other country in history. Like billions and billions and billions of dollars in aid. But guess who's footing the bill for that? We as the people. So here, we read it here how this king made a league with another nation to get there you go, to get the money to the whatchamacallit, to this king for protection, right? They taking it from the temple, but guess what? He's going to turn right around and tell the people, look, we're going to tax y'all more. We're going to levy more taxes and tariffs and exact more shekels from the people. And the people just like, we can't afford all this. We can barely get by.
Right. Sharing the set site here, you can just put in the whole thing.org, usdebtclock.org, where they keep supposed to be an approximate of the current debt. This is just for the whole United States. Upper left-hand corner, you can sort it by state. Also, they have other debt clocks as far as other countries. You see here, compared to like China, Japan, Germany, UK, et cetera. And then you could also, if I go back, you can filter it by state too. You can say, okay, let me look up New York, let me look up Louisiana, look up Kentucky, take your pick. but it's supposed to be the one for the whole thing. And it goes back, I think, to like the early 80s as far as the deficit. You see how it climbs after like, different presidents, as far as where it makes like extreme jumps. The USDebtClock.org.
Yeah, so to what he was saying, it's a little over $300 billion in military aid and financial aid has been given just to Israel since they came in state in 48. But they're not the only ones. There's other countries that also that have been given that as well, with like Egypt, Afghanistan, right? Because we'll say, oh, we went to war with Afghanistan, but at one point we were allies with Afghanistan. We empowered what's his name? Not Saddam, Osama bin Laden, and then when they was fighting during that period of time, we gave them weapons and enabled them, trained them, and they were getting a good amount of money and military aid. And it just compounds to all of Turkey and a whole bunch of other people at different points in time. But Israel has been sustained like from then up until now, as far as for all of that military aid and money.
Kind of. Those are always the thing I like to point out as far as like America's undoing. Number one, putting their hands on God's actual people, Psalms 104, 14 and 15, and oppressing us and doing all the things they did to us in Deuteronomy 28. Setting up the false state of Israel and impersonating us as God's people, right? And the third thing is just how they set this government up to pretty much, bring back to life all those horrible idols of the ancient Hamite other nations. So those three things are like the three things America has to undo to have any hope. But they're in too deep. Too deep. Even with one of those being undone, if even if it were possible, you just got those other two you got to deal with. So, as the late REI would say, right? High Priest REI would say, America is the end of you. So back to 2 Kings chapter 16. I'll read verse 8. It says, and Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for a present to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him. The king of Assyria went up against Damascus and took it and carried the people of it captive to Kir and slew Rezin. Right? So now the Assyrians took out the Syrians, right? Which benefited us since we know the Syrians were allied with the Northern Kingdom. But all in all, that's their business, right? What are we doing? Are we following God's righteousness? No. So that was like I was showing you guys before in that map. Then it says, and King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Urijah the priest the fashion of the altar and a pattern of it according to all the workmanship thereof. And Urijah the priest built an altar according to all the King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Urijah the priest made it against King Ahaz came from Damascus. Right? It says, and when the king was come from Damascus, remember Damascus is the capital city of the Aramites, or just the Syrians without the A in the front, that now just lost. When the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached him to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar, which will now these work. Just remember Leviticus chapters 1-7 go into details behind how these different offerings were to be done, right? And why, right? He brought also the brazen altar, which was before Yahweh, from the forefront of the house. Remember going back to First Kings, right? First couple chapters when Solomon's come on the scene, he's building all those different things that would be part of the temple. We had the they call it the brazen or the molten sea, right? It's like this big like bowl that was pretty much propped up by the 12 bulls, right? Sitting on their backs pretty much, if you can imagine that. He brought up also the brazen altar, which was before the Yahweh, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar and the house of Yahweh, and put it on the north side of the altar. And King Ahaz commanded Urijah the priest, saying, upon the great altar burn the morning burnt offering and the evening meat offering, right, which was customary, and the king's burnt sacrifice and his meat offering with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering and the drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it the blood of all the burnt offering, all the blood of the sacrifice. And the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by.
This guy just went and changed the whole. Just went and changed the whole order, man. What is this guy doing? Just
Wow.
took it upon himself. I like what they got. Make the same thing that they have, but we're going to do that down in the south. We're going to make that a part of our ritual now. We're going to praise the Most. We're going to worship the Most High this way.
So all these things got to be taken into account by the time we finally get up to 586, which is going to be much later.
Yeah.
We go back to the temple and say, okay, like you kind of need to have snapshots of time to say, okay, around this time the temple looked like this. Around this time during this king, the temple looked like this, based on this event.
Right.
So to kind of have like that timeline of here's how the temple was built, here's how it changed, here's how it was rebuilt after we went back after Ezra and Nehemiah's time, and then it looked similar or different to the one Solomon had. Like these are all interesting things to kind of take into account to kind of store away, as you read these things. And you think it to yourself, like, if King Ahaz, this guy's offering children to the fire and all that, like you already know this guy is not in his right mind. So you can already expect the worst. Not like the situation we're going to see with King Manasseh, which is later. But at least he came to a place of repentance, Whereas this guy, it's just like, oh man, what's he up to? What is he doing? And then you got Urijah the priest following suit, listening to his king. It wasn't like sometimes the high priest smacks the king like, yo, what are you doing? Sometimes the king has to smack the high priest, go, yo, what are you doing? Right? And we'll see that not today, but we come back as we get into Hezekiah finally. Righteous king again. For once, we'll see an example of a king telling the priest, all right, guys, look, what my dad was doing, my the high places, all of it's got to go. But, we're not there yet. Almost. So it says in verse 17, and King Ahaz cut off the borders of the bases and removed the laver from off them, and took down the seat from off the brazen oxen that were under it. Those are the 12 oxen facing the four directions, right, that were built on Solomon's time. And put upon a pavement of stones. So it's just like, people get something they sit on like a cinder block, like sit these here until we can figure out, what to do. So it's just like, she took the molten seal was for the both sides to say, let's put this on some stones.
Yeah, just set that over there.
Wow, the disrespect. So speaking of, we were talking about earlier, here disrespect right there. I think about Dr. Disrespect. Other guy got caught out there, right? But that's a heathen. Hell with him. But the disrespect and the covert for the Sabbath that they had built in the house, and the king's entry without or outside, turned he from the house of Yahweh for the king of Assyria. So there's more gifts, more brides, more like, okay, let's try to, like it says, was Jeremiah 2:33? Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? So he's a good example of this, what he's doing right here. Let me just get that verse real quick. And to show that this doesn't pay. Like crime.
You think about what this might be doing to the rest of the nation. Like the rest of the nation sees the king, acquiescing to a heathen king for protection, and now he's changing up all the design of the temple, all the confectionaries and things that we kept in there that are supposed to be, our holy place, and you just go in and just rearranging furniture and doing things what you want to appease this man. It's going to turn the rest of the nation away from serving the Most High.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got scriptures that deal with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jeremiah 2:33 first, where it says, why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Wherefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways? Oh, Proverbs 3:31. Proverbs 3 and
What's the
31.
first one?
Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33. And then also Proverbs 3 and 31. So Proverbs 3 and 31, it reads, let me go time. We'll finish in a Roman watch. Proverbs 3 and 31, it reads, envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. Right? Now we can quote that one for today, especially when it comes to the quote unquote leaders of our people. Right? They're breaking both these broke both these scriptures, right? To try to walk and talk, act like the heathen, especially Esau, but the other heathen too, right? In order to get love, get attention, say, look at me, right? You can work with me. I'm malleable, I'm shapeable, right? I'm pliable. Ecclesiasticus. Oh, that's what I was thinking about earlier, and I slipped my mind because the Kendrick guy is playing a Kendrick song. I don't know if there was like some dual symbolism there in the They're Not Like Us, where they had the owl in the cage. I know Kendrick is kind of like, he's not Israelite, but I know he's Israelite adjacent. So it's just like, I don't know, they saw him put that in the video, and it's like, sometimes they might miss a thing or two, and it's like, okay, we know it's directed towards, Drake, Ovo, right? But could that be also saying like, yeah, we're coming for you too? Like I said, it's a stretch. More than likely, it just meant for it to be against him. But you know how they don't like any of their symbols being compromised, right? As corrupt as they are, they wouldn't stand for their own symbols being compromised. But at the same time, I know, looking at Esau and how he does things, he likes to play both sides of the fence, where he wants to create his own version of the good guys. They're really on his payroll. Like they did with Donald Trump. They got Donald Trump, people thinking that he's not, by the numbers, he's not controlled by numerology, and, he's not a Jesuit also, and all these other things. Like, they make him seem like, he's an outsider. But you bring up basic things about him, people scratch their head. Like, this guy was a Democrat most of his life. He just became red team like not too long ago. This guy was taking pictures with the Clintons. Now he's making fun of him, like during the presidential campaign. Like, look at this guy and his track record where he came from before. So, but like I said, that wasn't that long ago. But it seems to be like distant history to most of America. But they think that, Donald Trump is a rogue element out here doing his own thing. It's just like, look a little closer, you'll see he's controlled opposition too. Because Esau's realizing we got to make this this war of opposites that we control. We have to make it seem more, believable, right? We got to turn the stakes up a little bit. We got to switch gears a little bit. Even though we're still doing our rituals, make sure it at least appears as though, an outside can come in and rip things up. Because remember, that's twofold. They used Donald Trump for that reason too, to try to use him as a means to draw all the real dissidents. You got a lot of Esau that are like, getting ready, training in the woods and stuff. They actually believe in the Constitution. That's what America's really about, right? They want to see how many of those folks they can get and identify, like you said, with those data tracking, those big databases. Too many folks that go for Trump that are, pro-America, pro-patriotism, all the things they want to abolish, so they can kind of make their list longer. So, keep in mind Donald Trump also being used for this as well. But most folks don't, they wouldn't see Donald Trump as like a tool. Even like these guys on these, alternative media, they'll get behind Trump as though like he's a voice, against the swamp. But it's like, no, he's the swamp. We talk about draining the swamp, but no, he's a swamp thing too. Don't get it twisted. A lot of folks are duped though. But yeah, I want to show you that, guys. I'll show you probably later, but that thing on BlackRock, the BlackRock company. But you start looking at these guys, you begin to really see. If you forgot, you begin to really see. Yeah, red team and blue team, they're all bought and paid for. Start looking into these guys and all the guys they're affiliated with. But 2 Kings 16, But before I read 19 and 20 and close out, and I read Jeremiah 2 and 33, Proverbs 3 and 31. As far as however the ruler is, that's how the people are, that's the verses, right? Ecclesiasticus chapter 10. That's like the foolish advice from like teacher to student, parent to child, right? Manager to employee. Do as I say, not as I do, right? But in the end, they're going to do as you do. You know, whether you realize it or not. And by the time you realize it, it might be too late. So those that follow you, they do what you do. Then they do what you say. Even what you do is behind closed doors. Somehow or another, most times going to have that become a part of what they're into. Or then be tempted by it at the very least. That's guaranteed. But Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, that's why you see a lot of these wicked, these elite that are part of like, you know, these current and past presidential cabinets and stuff that have been responsible for these wars being waged and, you know, millions, even billions dead, money extorted. You see how their own children, as much as set up as they are as far as money and resources, they're LGBT, they're like, you know, mental illness, they got all different types of problems. They, you know, they're drunk on, you know, alcoholism and getting caught up with all these different vices. And it's just like, you know, you make your bed and that you lay in it, right? You know, even if your kids didn't even know, if you kept a squeaky clean image, if you did it all, you know, behind closed doors before they knew about it, you're gonna see those same things you're about in reality that God sees. You're gonna see that be manifested in them. You're gonna say, "Oh my God, how could they get caught up in the same thing?" Because it's like, it's not just them seeing you do it. It's because that's what you are and that's what your spirit is. That's where Esau falls short when he tries to say, you know, like we were talking about earlier, you know, the levels when it comes to like acceptance of immorality. You know, as long as whatever you do is in the privacy of your own home, that's the trick. Because those unclean spirits that are with you when you're doing that wickedness, those things go out. Even if you're doing it in the privacy of your own home, you know, anybody you do it with is a consenting adult. Right? It's not going to matter. That wickedness is going to what? Its effect is going to ripple out, even towards folks that don't even know what you're into, because it's going to be like a festering ground for those spirits. It makes you think too. I read about that in Ezekiel 34, and it talks about the perpetual smoke that's going to go up. Where it talks about the satyr playing there. You're gonna have like unclean spirits, just like still here, you know, doing whatever the Most High has them do, even while the place burns, because it's just like so much filthy residue, physical and spiritual filthy residue. It's gonna be left here, right? Because of all the stuff every day is happening in America. Like any given day in Babylon the Great, also known as America. Just think about all the spiritual and physical wickedness being done. Just one day. So when it talks about, you know, it reaching up to heaven, like I think about a stack of papers is, you know, like for every sin, it's just you can't count it, man. Yeah.
Of sin.
Like I can get 1,000 sheet of piece of paper, and it's only like this thick, right? That's 1,000 sheets. So imagine it going all the way up into the sky, like going up into the upper firmament. You know, America's in trouble, man. This place is, whew. Yeah, to put it lightly, right? Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verses 1 to 4, where it reads, "A wise judge will instruct his people, and a government of a prudent man is well ordered." Verse 2, "As a judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. What manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein." Then it says, "An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited." Right? And finally in verse 4, "The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable." So yes, Job 9:24 notwithstanding, yet and still, who controls them? Right? What did Satan tell Christ when set him up on the mountain? He said, "All this power I give thee, for that is delivered unto me." I mean, he didn't take it for himself. It was given to him. And we always ask that question. We read that at camp. I'm telling you, man, even to this day, we pull Luke 4 and 5 at camp, we still get because people have kind of usually have heard of the whole Christ being tempted. They've seen that in one of those Caesar Borgia movies, right? They always seen some kind of version of that. But we show him that verse. It's just like, he did say that. Wow, yeah, man. Because the whole God controls evil, I think it's just like, folks miss that so much because they've been duped by the mythology that is Christianity. But yeah, they still get surprised. Oh my God. And then link this with Proverbs 29 and 12. Proverbs 29 and 12. Because you'll see with at least here in America, I'm sure you look at the other heads of the scarlet colored beast of Esau, like in Europe and stuff. You'll see when someone gets busted doing some illegal activity in government or like corporate whatever, the president or the president of the country, the CEO of the company, country/company, in America's, people could say it's one and the same, right? They'll always find someone to be a fall guy to say, oh, this is not part of our morals and guidelines, our principles, our values. We have to remove this person and separate them as though they were like an independent agent. I'm thinking back to like Iran-Contra, right? With Oliver North, right? What was he saying? Every moment he was on a witness stand, right? You could pull it up on C-SPAN. He still got the footage of the court hearings back then. We were like, some of us weren't even born yet. Some of us was little kids when that was going on, but you saw it. What was he saying over and over again? I was following orders. I was merely following orders like a good soldier, right? And he had a rank himself. That's Oliver North. So it's like, who's he answering to, right? At best, he's answering to the head of the CIA, but who's the head of the CIA supposedly answer to, right? So they always have to find a way to find somebody in the chain of command to say, oh, it all falls on his or her shoulders. They're the corrupt agent. Remove them and then replace them with somebody else. But the truth of the matter is, no, that wickedness goes all the way up to the Oval Office every time, right? Now, if they were supposed to govern, if they were governing the way we were supposed to, they would say, "Oh, as the head of the country, I'm not going to shut you down and shut down your department." When that goes against the agenda of the world elite, we see even presidents can be taken out, one way or the other, right? So once again, the scriptures expose this government, expose these powers that be for what they really are, time and time again. So Proverbs 29 and 12, it reads, if a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked, right? So by default. So it's just like, working for like a mayor, working for a governor, or working for a president, especially during campaign time, right? It's like impossible for you to avoid catching some kind of flack for whatever it is that they're doing as far as their decision making. It's going to fall upon you because you work for them. You're under them. You're under their command, under their authority. You can't escape it. So for the king of our people, looking to be under or to follow under the king of a heathen nation, like we see here with King Ahaz, it's just this is par for the course. This isn't going to work out. But let's go back to 2 Kings 16 to finish up. After reading about the foolishness that he was about. It reads in verse 19, now the rest of the acts of Ahaz, which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah, which you can just connect this with 2 Chronicles 28, which we're going to go into again when we get into Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 28. Really, the whole chapter really goes into Ahaz. But the specific verses are pretty much the last two verses where it talks about Ahaz sleeping with his fathers and Hezekiah coming to reign in his stead. So yeah, 16, 19, and 20 can link with 2 Chronicles 28. 28th chapter. So it reads, and Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his stead. Right? So finally, the incoming of a righteous king is going to be fully righteous, not just like for himself, but also going to enforce it throughout the land too. Which you didn't see with Ahaz especially, but then also what you didn't see with Jotham, his father, and then his father that came before him. But we'll make an end here if there's no other questions or comments. Before we get into, when we come back to this about 3 weeks from now, we get into chapter 17. I might touch on some things from chapter 28. But for the sake of time, we'll 2 Chronicles 28, as far as King Ahaz and what he had going on. We might touch on that probably a little bit in the beginning of service next time. So for the sake of time, we'll end here since we've kind of gotten up to a watch time-wise. But if there's no other questions or comments, we will end it here. Next week, we're back in the New Testament, which will be the 31st of August, the last in this Gregorian month, which will be 3 John and Jude. So 3 John, which is one chapter, and the book of Jude will be our reading for August 31st. So that'll be for next week. And let me see here. I didn't post it, but this was for the deck clock. If you guys are interested, since we're talking about it earlier, I posted a link that I was sharing with you guys before. And we just see real quick, just make sure we don't have any, we didn't miss anything when it came to the map. We'll be touching all these things here. Philistines raid town in Judah. You must take Judah and take prisoners. Campaigns in areas transform into Assyrian provinces. So if you make that deal with the devil of sorts with the king of Assyria, here we see the years 730s, the early 730s BC, as far as him allied with Judah, fought against the Philistines, fought against Israel, and then fought against Damascus as far as those different color lines, as far as different places that they took over. So good for Judah, but bad for Israel, bad for us as a whole, us allowing them to come in like this. So see that? A vassal of Assyria. Ahaz built the pagan altar in Jerusalem. I think we just read about, right? Another vassal for Assyria, since we were able to beat them with the help of Assyrians. They were able to conquer Aram, and then they were under them at one point too. So the Assyrians pretty much, due to our allegiance with them, took out all these spots. So it's kind of like, you employing help, but then you can't really, you don't really call the shot. Once you you get what you want, because you made the deal with this person who's stronger than you, now it's like, you can't tell them, like, okay, thanks, you can go now. It's like, oh, no, we're here to stay. Actually, I think we want a little bit more, It's kind of Esau, the game he plays, trying to employ Ishmael, into his ranks to have him be the face of terrorism, where the scriptures let us know, okay, you'll be able to do that for a little while, but we know what the Bible says about Ishmael. It says they're going to be a wild man, and their hand's going to be against every man. So, Esau, any deal you're able to broker with them, it's going to be, loosey-goosey at best, It's going to be on a temporary basis. Even your House of Saul, House of Bush, alliance, even that thing's going to fizzle eventually. Because, Ishmael is not righteous. They're corruptible too. But they're going to be who the Most High made them to be too. Okay, so that's the visuals on that. The Assyrians coming into power once again, along with the other map that we didn't touch on before. Okay, so we'll make an end here once again. Unless anyone else has any questions or comments or scriptures you want to bring out. All right. Well, I got 2 more verses, and then we'll do the closing prayers. If no one else has anything. So this is Psalms. Psalms 118. Psalms 118, verses 8 and 9. So Psalms 118, verses 8 and 9. It reads, Psalms 118 and verse 8. It is better to trust in the Lord or Yahweh than to put confidence in man. 9. It is better to trust in Yahweh than to put confidence in princes. And then this is Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 17 to go with this. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 5. Jeremiah 17 and 5 reads, Thus saith Yahweh, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. Verse 6. For he shall be like a heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inherit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land and not inhabited. Then it says in verse 7, Blessed is, right, remember salt, while salt has many, useful properties, when you throw salt on roots or on soil, right, it's horrible, right? This was a technique that armies did against others when they were fighting. You read about Esau doing that when he fought against, what do you call it? When he fought against the Carthaginians in North Africa. When we started getting the advantage after the Second Punic War, under Africanus's command, they would go to the plots of land that, what's his face? Hannibal, right? And Hamilcar's father, they had set up that they grew crops. They went into their land through salt and all the places where they were growing food as a means to destabilize them. You read about that, you go into the history of the Punic Wars. It's that salt land's talking about, where you can't grow stuff. Verse 7, Blessed is the man that trusteth in Yahweh, in whose hope the Lord is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. So just remember those verses when we come back to this a couple weeks from now, and we start getting into Hezekiah, and how he would go about reigning, right? So that was Jeremiah 17:5. I stopped at 8, and before that I read Psalms 118, verses 8 and 9. Okay, so there's nothing else anyone else wants to bring out or link up. I'll say Rakate Hawa by Hashem Yahweh Shai, La Ruach HaKodash, which just means blessed be the Most High in the name of Christ by way of the Holy Spirit. Without them, none of this will be possible. For our branch of Christ or any others that are out there teaching His word, coming back to the true and righteous gospel of the true and living God and His Son Christ. May other camps out there keeping the Sabbath day, may they enjoy their Sabbath as well. May you guys enjoy the rest of your Sabbath day that are attending and watching with us now. And with that, we'll do the closing prayers. Oh, that's on a teleconference. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Got you. Shalom.
Can you hear me?
Come.
All praise to the Most High, the water for the class, Navion. And do not forget, Israel, endure no matter what. Shalom.
Come. Excellent words of advice and wisdom to endure no matter what. On that note, let me read this one verse just to echo that sentiment, and then we'll close. Matthew chapter 10. And verse 22. And then you can couple that with 24 and 13. Where Matthew 10:22 reads, this is what Christ told his disciples, right? He was giving them instruction. Us being the disciples of the latter day. Ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Right? So the importance of endurance, as the brother just shared with us on a teleconference. Also, Matthew 24, which is Christ, he gave his, what they call the Olivet Discourse, where he told his disciples what should come to pass in the end times. Right? On the Mount of Olives. They said, what shall be the signs of the end, Lord? It reads in Matthew 24 and 13, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So I know with the Israel, especially Southern Kingdom, right? We know it's like a back and forth between Judah and Benjamin when it comes to the sprints, right? 100, 200, right? Hurdles. But now when it comes to the truth, it's more about the steeplechase, right? The marathon, right? It's about 4K, 4K run. That's what we got to treat this truth, right? Where it's just like, you got to pace yourself, right? So we want to have that in mind. But a lot of us have that, get to the end quick, and that's it. No, we gotta endure it. Brother said we gotta endure to the end. All right. So Shah Shabbat, Yasha Allah. It's a pleasure going through the service with you guys, and while everyone is here and folks that are online for your participation and contribution. And with that, we'll do the closing prayers. Enjoy the rest of the Sabbath, Israel. Oh, almost forgot. So, for you guys that watch us or listen in during the week or come in person, our teleconference every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Just call 667-770-1085. Access code 52455. Once again, 667 area code 770-1085. Conference code 52455. And we also have ProphetTalks.com, which along with the teleconference on the week, where we do a live stream through Zoom that you can dial into as well. Just access this website to your device, whether it be a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop, etc. Just make sure you have Zoom installed, and it'll pull the class right up. You can attend that way as well. You're going to make donations to the school. You can make them payable, whether it be a check or money order, to Ha Yashala Kanaz. Here's our address, 3826B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19140. Once again, 3826B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19140. You spell the name of the church the same way you see here, that's scrolled. And if you didn't want to do check a money order or wanted to make a donation or tithe or what have you online, now we have the PayPal site, which is paypal.me/HYK12 to make contributions that way, or through Zelle at the number 646-620-7378. Once again, paypal.me/HYK12 or through Zelle 646-620-7378. All right. Please remember to like and share the video so we continue to grow this branch, another branch of Christ, so that more and more of us can be warned and be edified, so that we're all ready before Christ makes his glorious second coming. And I'll say that Shah Shabbat once again, Israel. And now, with that, we'll do the closing prayers. Barakateh Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Asherah Tananawa, Pari Agapan Tuara Aman. La Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Yashra. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Amadwa, Panyaway Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Babaku Shai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aita, Yum Yum, Aita, Shalak, Ma'ika Allah, Wahalahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shamar Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wachazayak, Banya, Yasharala, Washalak, Lanawa, Rabian, Kakama, Rabian, Da'ait, Rabian, Bayanah, Rabian, Sabalanwa, Rabian, Amawan, Rabian, Aqua, Rabian, Ahabian, Rabian, Haganah, Rochanaya, Wasalak, Kau, Katayanawa, La Akim, Wa Akua, Wayasha'ala, Tamya, Waiwalam, Ba'Shem, Yahawashad, the water, Aman. English translation, Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now. Right now, send Mike on the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha'ala, Wabat Yasaparim, Shemai, Yasharale, Yahweh, Elohim Yahweh, Yahweh, Akhed. English translation, we said Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books. Then we said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. So with that, we'll say a Shar Shabbat. Once again, happy Sabbath. Wa Manakah Tawah. Well, good afternoon.
Ashar Shabbat.
Shar Shabbat.